developer and generally pre-sale without any consequences to him. Surrounding communities have ordinances where there's a tree retention fee, where there are requirements that trees be replaced, where there are requirements that we have an environmental impact study when there's going to be a new development. This developer has not requested one because he doesn't want one. Tonight, we're asking for your help, City Council, to form a committee to study the enactment of an ordinance so that we can have conservation, so that we can have the requirements to retain the natural beauty of West Waukene. Be mindful that all of the residents in the Bella Vista and the Hills Retreat area that are adjacent to this Project 350 do not want rezoning, they do not want replatting. Also, last month, this Board of Planning and Zoning denied their application. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, George. We have one more citizens input.
Vanessa.
Vanessa?
I'm Vanessa Gilbert,
You get 3 minutes.
232 Key Drive. Thank you. I know you guys received the memo with extensive information that we can all, mostly Caleb put together. And hopefully you also found the pictures that was sent of the new build houses that were flooded and just the 1-inch rain that we had not too long ago. So, that's the lack of not grading properly before all this substantial development starts coming into place. And those are just a couple of examples. And those are one is in Bella Vista, one is in Hills Retreat. And so I ask that you obviously deny this. I oppose this as it stands. I think it needs to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out a better way, bigger lots, grading, better streets, infrastructure. Because the draining does not drain towards the highway on any of our, and your own engineer said that in your last meeting. So, thank you.
Anyone else? We'll go ahead and move on. Number 6, consent agenda items. Open the table to any discussion for the agenda items. Everybody had it in their packet. Any discussion revolving agenda items A through M? If there's no discussion, I'll need a motion to approve them or deny them.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items here to M.
All right, all in favor?
That's Travis. Thank you.
Christopher Cat. Number 6 passes. Old business, nothing under old business. New business, A, presentation from engineering on 350 East Highway 276.
Working away from back here. All right, thank you, council, for hearing this zoning case and replat tonight. So we have submitted a plat. It did fail at planning and zoning after probably an hour and a half of public hearing. And then we came to city council last month and there was another probably hour or so of public hearing, but we weren't on agenda. So since then, we have taken all of those comments into consideration. I have a revised layout I would like to present. You can approve the plat as is, or I can pass these out and you could conditionally approve it, provided that we make these changes. And of course, we'll kind of go over it. And then if you've got any comments or questions, I'm here to answer as many as I can. I got a couple large prints if anybody's visually impaired like I am. And then so here's one exhibit. They're front and back. One of them is. So what we've done, I know one of the issues was, of course, the number of lots itself. And so we have revised the lot count. We've gone from 35 residential lots down to 32. Well, it doesn't seem like a big difference. All the lots except for the ones in orange, have gotten larger. So the goal, with this being an infill development, basically means it's been built completely around. So it doesn't give us a whole lot of options for just changing the zoning and adhering to a much larger lot size. The main reason is how skinny this property is towards the end of it. And as you can see, there's this kind of cutout that the owners, that they don't have. That was from the original lot configurations. So that's kind of the basis of how those were gonna be cut up anyways. We could try to make those lots all bigger, but then that's gonna push the right of way right up against our neighbors. And of course, that's something we never try to do. If you go to the page that's got the aerial on it, should be the opposite side of that one. We printed a map that's got all the surrounding square footages for the properties that we abut. Over 80% of those are gonna be smaller than what we are. You know, all of our surrounding zoning is SF2, which is 4,000 square foot or 4,800 square foot minimum. Our smallest lot right now is 8,000 square foot, and that's the only ones that are 8,000 are the ones that abut the existing frontage. And again, that's larger than what's already along that road, and it's just kind of the only thing that fits there. If we did make those larger, they're just gonna become wider lots. They can't get any deeper. So you end up building basically row-sized lots. They're like a football field. The homes can't get any deeper. They just get wider and wider, more trailer house size, not trailer houses, because of course they can't. Over half of these lots are 12,000 square foot, which is your largest zoning, which is SF1. The reason we didn't want to pull SF2 zoning and request SF1 is there's certain areas like these in green that SF2 or SF1 zoning just doesn't fit.
So most of these are SF1s?
So the ones in blue that you're looking at
Yeah.
would meet SF1 criteria.
Green's not, right?
The green is 10,000 square foot, which is more than double SF2. And then these are 8,000, which is still quite a bit larger than the minimum lot size.
I do have a question though.
Sure.
One of the things I saw from the memorandum was that there's only 10 feet gap between the houses. What's the gap now?
That is another item that we've changed. I put y'all's zoning table,
Yeah.
at least the one that's currently in place. I put that on these sheets. No matter what our zoning is, the side yard and the rear setbacks are 5 foot. That is the side yard. That's fairly typical for a high density use. 5 foot on the rear is very shallow. So what we're proposing is 15 in the rear and 10 foot on the sides. We can do that by plat. You don't have to change any of your ordinances or do anything special with our zoning. We can just list that on our plat as 15-foot rear yard setbacks, 10-foot side yard setbacks. So that means the closest any structure can be is 20 foot from each other. That's a fairly typical setback requirement, 15 in the rear and 10 on the sides. It ensures that nobody's gonna be building right up against property lines. You can see on that aerial, there's some people, with 4,000 square foot lots, and they built on basically every inch of that. And we don't want to come in and do that. That's the whole goal of this, was to try to make the lots as big as we can. But again, we're confined on all sides. There's not many other layouts that really fit on this property, just based on its configuration. So I've talked to the owners. They're willing to make these lots bigger. They're willing to do the larger setbacks and make sure everybody stays off their property lines. We can change the engineering drawings to say asphalt rather than a chip seal road. But ultimately what we're trying to get approved first before we get, a contractor in permits, and they've got to know that there's a project. Obviously all of those things come with a cost. And, you don't want to spend all that money up front for a project to get denied and then go, oh, all these permits we pulled and contractors we paid, there's no project for them. So that's the main thing, is trying to find a suitable project for this piece of property.
So another concern was about, the flow of water,
Yes.
So did you address that yet or no?
So Yes, we have a full set of engineering drawings, and there is a high point right in here where this existing lot is, that's not ours. And everything does drain towards the highway. We've got full topo, we had crews on site, they've surveyed this whole property. It does drain to the highway. Y'all don't currently have a drainage ordinance that requires detention, but based on good engineering practices, there is a detention pond on this property that will collect all the runoff from this property. It'll detain the flow and let it out at a slower rate so that there is no impact, and then it drains. There's a little short segment that runs along the existing city street, and then it's in TxDOT right away. So if there is an issue at the discharge, it's a TxDOT problem, not a city problem. There are open ditches. A few comments were to put in a closed conduit system. Predominantly a closed conduit system, you're gonna have inlets, storm drain pipes. If those aren't properly maintained, they can be a much more burdensome system than just an open ditch. Say an open ditch gets filled in with silt, or the owners put something in that, you can clean out a ditch and fix the drainage a whole lot cheaper and quicker than you can with a closed conduit system. And especially when there's no downstream system for us to connect to, it makes it really hard, again, to kind of shoehorn something like that into this property.
Questions, guys?
About the bald eagle thing, you gotta look into that and a permit on that, or?
We haven't looked at a permit for,
I can talk about that when we're ready, because that's weirdly something I know about.
I'll let her address the bald eagle permit.
That leaves on
So, ultimately, we've tried to make as many concessions as we can. If you deny our application and forced us into a SF1 permit or SF1 zoning, density requirements were forced to drop down to 28 lots. So we would lose 3 more lots. Yes, I'm sorry. 1 more. Thank you. And predominantly what the only thing they can do is they can get wider. So there's just gonna be more room off to the side, but the main issue, with these existing neighbors along this side, they're not gonna really notice any difference between an SF1 and SF2, other than, bigger side yards for these homes. So I do request that you could pass an SF2 zoning and then approve the plat, contingent upon us making, a reduction in lot count and increasing our side and rear yard setbacks.
Can you point out on here where the top of the slope is on this lot?
Yes, I meant to bring a set of engineering drawings with me, but it should be right around here.
Right around in here?
Yes.
What's the slope rate to the street, which is the way you said it was?
I believe the road is around a 1% slope. So the ditch is about basically 1 foot per 100 foot.
How many feet is that for that?
700 or so.
So 7 inches?
7 foot.
7 feet?
Yes, because originally, we did talk to the owners about trying to put in a closed conduit system and pipe it into the lake so they could regain the detention area. And if we did do a closed conduit system and pipe it to the lake, at one point, the pipe's gonna be 15 or 20 foot deep, and that's almost impossible to maintain.
Sure.
Anything else, guys?
What
You said
the,
what kind of, you said you're proposing an asphalt road?
Yes, sir. Your approval tonight is just for the plat and the zoning. The city still has to approve our plans for construction. So, that part of it is still flexible. If the city wants to come in and require it to be asphalt, we're absolutely on board with changing the pavement section to being a full asphalt section. Typically with an open ditch road like this, you wouldn't see a concrete, just because water cheating off the edge of concrete can develop erosion. It's not typically a good idea.
I don't want to see the city get the maintenance problem will come with either the chip or the asphalt.
bring that up when it comes to
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah.
And
I
bring
guess
it
I'm
to
just, I'm
president.
just putting it out there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sir. All right, new business being discussed under action to approve or deny replat 350 East Highway 276 West Milwaukee.
I think maybe now's a good time for me to talk about birds.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, first of all, there are three main federal laws that dictate what you can and can't do in regards to protected species, endangered species. Well, I will tell y'all that the Texas Parks and Wildlife has a supported map that you use through Google that updates with the Fish and Wildlife Service, which is federal, on looking at, well, I've lost y'all, which shows you guys where critical habitats are. Notably, we don't have them. And critical habitats for the federal government are, I mean, that's gonna be your serious, a lot of ours in Texas are along the southern border, so you've got weird things like ocelots, they've got a critical habitat in the southern border. There's a weird one in San Marcos for spiders. And those, when we get into those critical habitats, you can't do anything. So there's kind of a conflation of what they're talking about and what we've actually got going on here. We don't have any critical habitats where we need to seek special permitting or anything like that from the federal government. There are three main federal acts that kind of cover this area of law. Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and it's the oldest one. I just pulled the date up here, but that's 1918. The ESA is the most recent, the Endangered Species Act, and that was done in the 70s. There is also a Golden Eagle Act, though that one never really touches us. Most of the states that actually applies to, it is going to be weirdly Washington and Oregon, because that's where a lot of the nesting grounds are. Let me tell you guys, I'm going to pin in this to tell y'all, I have a weird body of knowledge about this. When I first graduated law school, I did some lobbying work for environmental issues with the Texas legislature. I strangely know more about this than a lot of attorneys might. So, like I said, I'm not at all worried about the Bold and Golden Eagle Act. Migratory Bird Act, what that does is that prevents takings inside these inter-migratory grounds, so that people don't sell, transport, kill, disturb, those sorts of things. And even with bald and golden eagles, you're not allowed to do anything that cause them harm if they're in a certain nesting ground. I don't think we've got any evidence. I know people in East Texas see a lot especially along the Red River as well. We'll see eagles lie and stay kind of briefly, but it is just kind of a thoroughfare. We are in the central flyway zone. There's four main ones, but we're squarely inside the central one. And that runs up through the Gulf and goes up into Canada. It's one of the main ones, and it's probably one of the busiest ones. Interestingly, and I think maybe notably for everybody, it's also really popular to build wind turbines in that zone. So we're not violating any federal laws if you guys want to rezone and let them build homes. That is just really not an issue. I don't know when this first came up, but I want to be very clear. We don't have any issues with critical habitats. We don't have any issues. And the builders would not be allowed if there is strangely, though I do not believe there is, and I don't think we can show any evidence of this, that a bald eagle nesting in the center of this property. No, we can't disturb them. But ironically, once they left, for whatever, once they went to migrate further, then we could clear out an unused nest. So this is a non-issue. I don't want you guys to believe that this is a problem. It is not. Now, any other issues with that you want to require or things, that's fine. But as far as the environmental impact, no, we don't need an environmental impact study. This is
It's still up for discussion. Anybody, y'all have issues, concerns?
Yeah, I'm worried about the drainage.
Okay.
I wonder if we're gonna take it, if that water's gonna go out and just be put into the bar ditch there on 276, we got a lot of problems with that already. And if I understand that, from the document that Caleb had submitted, that the plan here is for the owner to plant, put in the infrastructure, and then allow others to build there. He's not gonna be building. I don't know how you control it. And so, yeah, I've got some concerns.
Chad?
Probably agree with Ramsey over here, same concerns.
My concerns are around the fact that we have a comprehensive plan that we're trying to adopt. And that comprehensive plan talks about new ordinances and new zoning measures that we want to put in place. Because the zoning we have now is 40 years old. And that this kind of complies with the 40-year-old zoning, but how will it approach the zoning we may come up with in the next 3 to 6 months when we get that information. So while this is kind of what we've accepted in the past, is that what we want to accept in the future. And I don't really know that that's based on the comprehensive plan and the engineering information that we're getting and learning that we're not getting, that we may be doing what we've always done instead of what we want to do in the future.
So, this is what I have to say. We've got a qualified planning and zoning people. I mean, we got really, really qualified people. They rejected it, right? So I would want to send it back to them. There are going to be issues. Every construction will have issues. There's no question about it. And it can all be mitigated. I mean, that's how we build, thousands of buildings in Manhattan. It can all be mitigated. Let it go back to planning and zoning. Let them look at it again and say, these are the mitigating things you have to do. Send it back. So, I mean, it can be mitigated. I don't see anything that cannot be mitigated. You say, we want this, we want this, we want this. And let it come back with all those things. But I'm not qualified to say, yeah, this is good.
So you've heard from the citizens, you've heard from the engineer. Shannon, do you have anything to weigh in on it?
I know we don't want to stay with SF2. We need bigger lots. I agree, they've got double the size lots. Personally, I don't know if we can require more than asphalt. That's gonna be more of an attorney question, I think. They've got the detention ponds. I mean, we don't, obviously, I don't know if the city would ever go with concrete ditches or underground ditches. That's kind of more of a comprehensive plan, sit down and workshop type thing to go through.
So guys, we can either approve it, deny it, or table it.
Do you have concerns?
I would suggest
I'll
at least
hit them
giving
all.
some
Okay,
direction.
okay. So make sure
I
you,
said I would at least suggest giving some direction so he kind of knows where to go. As far as if you don't approve it, kind of what the next steps you would like to see him take are.
For clarity, are you guys making any findings? Has P&Z made any findings that they did not follow the current requirements?
No,
I don't recall anything that they did not. I think the biggest concern that was coming out of it, in my opinion, was our citizens' input, not wanting it. I think they've come back with some of the answers with making some of it bigger, and bigger easements, but as it's on us, how we want to handle it. Like I said, it would be nice that if we table it, that we kind of give them some idea of what to go back and work on.
As I see it, they made progress. They did make progress. It was worse, pretty bad last time. The fire truck wouldn't get in the backside and all that stuff. That's fixed. So there are a few other things that needs to be fixed. And I think I would suggest planning and zoning say, you gotta do this, this, and this, and then come back.
So are you making a motion to table it, have them take it back to P and Z?
That's what I would, yeah, I make a motion to table it and take it back to PNC, let them look at it, come back with mitigating things to do.
Okay, I've got a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Ramsey. All in favor?
Chad Jacoby,
Ramsey, Lindsay,
Craig Sprinkle.
Yes, sir.
Chris Burkett. Moving on to number C, falls under the same, discussing our action to approve or deny the rezone of 350 East Highway, Texas 276. I'll read it all there.
It's the same thing. So it has to go together anyways.
It's the same thing, one was replat, one was rezoned.
Yep.
Yeah,
Are you
I'm
making a motion?
making a motion to send it back to planning and zoning, come back with mitigating things.
All right, got a first. Second from Ramsey. All in favor?
Chad Jacoby,
Ramsey, Lindsay,
Craig Sprinkle.
Yes, sir.
Chris Burkett. All right, moving on, number D, presentation by Lawrence Crowe with Veritas and new contract.
All right, sir. Well, I appreciate you having us. Just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, we already have an agreement and a contract with the city of West Waukene to where we're doing plan review and inspection services now. But what we're really discussing further is to effectively, we have what we call a full service agreement that takes care of many of the items that you all are discussing tonight. With regards to the need for drainage, the need for detention or retention ponds, depending on the type project, the ability to do inspections on the infrastructure as it goes in. And we've been requested to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what we can do there. I've got Shane Grissom with me if you have any questions on the public works side of it. We also provide public works services and engineering services and things like that that are gonna assist you in avoiding some of these pitfalls that might otherwise, cause, for instance, flooding on existing houses and things like that to help you put this thing all together. But as you put in new streets and things like that, we have the ability to look at and inspect every bit of that to the minimum extent of the code. So what I think that Shannon has, and I don't know if you passed it out, but our full service agreement is basically the same legalese as the regular agreement. It just brings in, gives y'all the ability to, if needed, use us to help you with some of these other issues. The pricing is put into it in advance. Y'all looked at it before. And as you go through that whole thing, I call it a glorified insurance policy. Everything that is on there is things that we're capable of doing, things that we're able to assist you with, in addition to what we're already assisting you with. You don't pay for a thing to set it up. You only pay if you use the service. So if you've got a subdivision coming in, you need the help there, you know exactly what it's gonna cost going in based on the valuation of the respective projects. And then you have the ability to get a different level of expertise at your disposal so that you don't end up with some of those issues. So really and truly, we have a contract with you already. Shannon works with us regularly on a regular basis. We've had really, really good results and good feedback. Compliments from us to you all in West Waukene, a small town. A lot of times there is pushback and resistance to trying to build things to code, even though the state technically requires that you have to do it. But there are many small towns that just have not gotten on board. Y'all have. And the things that you're building, ever since we've been a part of this, the quality of the construction, the safety of the buildings, those type of things is far better. And you're in a way better position to defend yourself in the event that you ever had an event, so to speak, whether it be a building fire, a house fire, electrocution, or whatever, because you've taken the proper steps to make sure that the things that are built now are built to the minimum standard of the code. And I emphasize that a lot because there can be some confusion on what we do and what we, you could build things way above code. There's not a thing in the world that says you can't do that. I highly recommend that you do that where you can, but as a municipality, I would never require anything more than the minimum standard. If in fact you truly do want to build your city, the minimum standard is very, very safe, but there are other ways to build it and make it even better. And that would be something that you'd have to do through ordinances. But if you make it too strong, it'll make it cost prohibitive for the builders to come to your town and do it. If it's going to cost them $100,000 to put in a foundation where a $40,000 foundation meets the minimum standard of the code, then they'll balk at that and you'll have a difficulty getting them there. So that's what we're here to do. We do the plan review, we do the inspections, but we're adding the public works and, we have other services that y'all have. We've helped you with some of the ordinance writing, those type of things, so that you can get things a little bit more up to speed. But if you have any public works questions, Shane's here to answer those. And if you have any other questions with regards to that, certainly I'd do the best I could to answer your question.
Any questions?
I have questions.
Go ahead.
So this is, I'm talking as a councilman and also a citizen in this case.
Yes, sir.
So I'm pretty disappointed with some of the performances of Bureau of Veritas. I know it's a big company, you're capable of doing a lot of great things, but a lot of this, a lot of what we get depends on the person that produces it. It's just like doctor, somebody's got to produce a good stuff, somebody can produce a bad stuff, right? So I had sent in a plan, a construction plan for a retail center, 7,500 square feet, sent it in. In 10 days or less, it came back saying it's approved. It's approved, not one comment on any of it. Civil, structural, foundation, nothing. And I felt bad about, I thought, it cannot be. I looked at it, there was no foundation. It's approved. So I came and talked to Shannon and said, no foundation, it's approved. Why is that? And I talked to the architect who pulled all these things together. He didn't actually do it himself. He actually pulled information from the builder, pulled information from the structural, he pulled information from the other guys. And I asked him, and he said he was expecting a lot of changes, expecting to see a lot of red lines saying this is wrong, this is wrong. He had difficulty getting that information from all these different people. And he was not going to fight for me saying that, hey, this is wrong, you got to, he's not going to do it. He put it in, sent it in, he said, plan checker will catch it and we'll fix it. Nothing was caught, nothing. No foundation. I'm pretty disappointed. If we're going to get that, what good is that?
Well, let me speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
And we have here an isolated case, and you are correct.
I told you.
There was a mistake that was made in that case. The mistake that was made, and what we've done is we have put in some additional training for that individual as we go through it. He picked up on a note that was on the plans that basically said this is being built on an existing foundation. That if many times people build, there's a foundation that's in place, and somebody later on comes and decides to build a building. So without the foundation drawings, he made an assumption he shouldn't have made, and he has since been corrected on that. And but the drawings could have been far more complete and far more clear. Yet he could have done more follow-up. We made that correction, but I think you can speak to Shannon and anybody else that's worked with us over time. That's a very isolated case. We own the portion of it that's us, and certainly we've dealt with that. So with that being the case, once again, the code is a minimum standard. Sometimes the architects get it right. I haven't seen the drawings myself, so I'm not going to debate it. But I will tell you that we work in 300 cities throughout the state, and we do a great job. Are we flawless? No, nobody is.
No,
And-
we're not expecting anybody to, we see mistakes when people step up to the plate and fix it. That's what happens in construction.
Absolutely.
There's no problem with that, but it's about quality control.
Yeah.
If somebody did that, why didn't somebody catch it?
Well,
in
and
the
that,
company?
that should have been caught, and that has been corrected, I guess.
So that's one. And once you figure it out, why don't you make these comments and say, send it back and say, we made this mistake, these are the things. And when I talked to the architect, he said, he had been doing business for 15 years or something. He said, I've done 300 projects. And before he started his own company, he worked for somebody else. He said, I've never in my lifetime saw one plan check coming back with nothing on it, blank sheet with stamps. Never, it's just.
Well, to answer your question, I haven't seen it, so I can't, the plans themselves. I can, and I have a copy that I can share with you, let you know a very detailed explanation and communication with Shannon that we went back and forth on that so that you see the quality control was put into that and the follow-up was done. But that was information that we worked directly through Shannon, and she's our contact here. And, like I said, I brought copies of that because I thought it might come up. Certainly, we have to own that one.
I didn't see a copy of it. I haven't seen it,
I have it out there and I'm happy to share.
So that's, I'm gonna say, we just, instead of blindly jumping into it, we gotta build it out. Let's see who else is there. There's no harm in building it out. This is a local government. We have a mandate. We don't, with this experience, I can say, hey, let's go with it. I'm gonna say, let's build it out.
So one thing with this contract, it does not specify that we solely use Bureau Veritas. It gives us the ability to use Bureau Veritas.
So we can build it out. We can have another.
Who pays it?
Use it.
The developers do. So we pay them, but they pay us. Nothing is paid for that's not used. And in this instance, this is the only instance where I've had an issue, and they did go back and send it up to a higher review when it was brought to our attention. James brought it to my attention. I went straight to a supervisor. The supervisor sent it to someone who was even more trained than the person that did it. They asked for foundation plans. The foundation plans were not provided at that time because he wanted a different person to do the foundation than the builder, and the builder would not build on someone else's foundation, so the whole thing kind of crumbled. But they did try to correct it by asking for the foundation plans to
That's
review.
what I told you.
And I just said that. I
So that's
said,
what
when
we'll
you
be
brought it
expect.
to my attention, but it is solely the only issue that I have run across or that we caught that we've had with them. They came on board with the city before I did, sometime in 2021, I believe. And I've been working with them for about 2.5 years.
Lawrence, we're not against you. We're not against you. We're not
Understood.
against your company. But we don't have the ability to, look at a plan and say, this has got to be done, we don't have that ability anywhere in the city. So that's the reason we have you, and we expect you to do that job. And, when this was one of the bigger jobs here, and this was completely screwed up.
Well, once again, I don't have all the information.
I don't need it.
We do there, but what I'm saying is I think our record will show that's an isolated case. I will promise you, we will own anything that we have done. Understand, and I'll just try to give you a little bit of context. We're in 300 plus cities just in Texas. We do hundreds of thousands of plan reviews. We have an impeccable record everywhere. We did the Cowboy Stadium, we did the Ranger Stadium, we do. But the other obstacle that we have, for instance, in West Tawakoni, you all adopt, what code are we under here?
18.
So you're under the 2018. We have people that are under the 2000, the 2003, the 2006, the 2009. Every 3 years, the code is adopted. We're having to adapt to every one of those municipalities. Some municipalities require nothing but an engineer letter for a foundation. Some want us to review it, and some are somewhere in the middle. And, I think the confusion on this one came down to the fact that, there was a note on the plans that said attached to existing foundation. Now, our person should have looked further, did not, those corrections have been made. We own that, that's, about all I can say there. But anyway, and and like I said, our agreement's in place. Anytime you need us, we're here. You have the ability, and like I said, it's a glorified insurance policy. If you choose not to call us, you don't have to do that. It doesn't change the contract, doesn't do anything else. If you implement this other contract, doesn't mean you have to use it, but you have the ability to use it. You have our expertise. In this case, you have Shane's expertise with regards to the public works. We're very, very diligent, very much we care about. And I appreciate the feedback. I really do. If we were perfect, we're just not. Nobody is. And if this person, made a mistake, and we own that. We'll adjust.
As I said, we don't expect you to be perfect.
Yeah.
We just want you to step up and say, yeah, yes, we did this. This is what the character thing is.
And that was done. And I've got the document for that, but I'll share that to you.
So let me touch a little bit on the public works. Basically, what the public works side of the contract is gonna cover is brand new subdivisions that are coming in, okay? So what we will handle is when, I believe it's PMI that's coming up next, that's gonna present to you about new zoning and stuff like that. We are then the teeth that back up that ordinance, okay? So our review will use that ordinance to make sure that subdivisions are coming in and placing infrastructure in per that ordinance. And then we go out and inspect it to make sure it's actually being built that way, okay? So then when you have concerned citizens that are coming in talking about drainage problems, on-site detention that's not there, he did point that out. That's where we come in and make sure that those things are in place. Because in my mind, the public works side of it is a little bit more of an entity that the city as a whole wants to pay attention to, because that's what's coming out of your city tax dollars, okay? When it's a private property issue, that private property owner has to deal with it because they own that, okay? But when it's that street out in front of all those citizens, then it's all that public works budget that's coming out, okay? So that's what we try to do, is we try to make sure that we're turning over product to the city as a whole, that in 5-10 years is not gonna be a problem, okay? You're completely right for being concerned about having chip seal and asphalt, okay? And yes, you can do concrete with a ditch. I'll argue that point too. So there's some things that I saw on that plat that are a little concerning. I'm not gonna touch on it because that's not what the open business is right now, but that's what we would do, is we would help the city as a whole make sure that this public works director is not gonna be pulling his hair out in 5 years when he's got potholes all over a road that's brand new, okay? Is there any questions about that side of it?
To be specific, it's an actual engineer that reviews those plans, correct?
Yes, we currently have a part-time as needed engineer. We're looking at getting another secondary civil engineer. Right now, our current engineer is retired from the city of Arlington after 27 years. She was involved with all the ballparks over there, Texas A&M Stadium, everything. Or, I'm sorry, AT&T Stadium, all that stuff. So she's our current engineer that we have for review, but we're also bringing on the public.
We need all those services. There's no.
Any questions?
Is that part of the deal, or is it different?
So they're just giving their presentation. We'll move on to approve or deny.
I'll give you the other copies.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, so we'll move on to E, discussion and or action to approve full service contract with Veritas.
My understanding is correct. It's basically just giving us an à la carte option to use them for additional services.
Correct.
I make a motion that we approve.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Chad Jacoby.
Greg Sprinkle.
I'm gonna abstain.
You're gonna abstain. Chris Burkett. Moving on to F, presentation by Kaylin with PMI regarding zoning and ordinance and pricing.
Council, it's nice to see y'all's faces again. I was just here last month.
Yes, ma'am.
Big open meeting all over again. This has been a pretty hot topic tonight, so hopefully we can have some good discussion about it. So just to reintroduce myself, my name is Caitlin Higgins with Public Management. We are currently working with Jacob Barton on y'all's comprehensive plan, doing y'all's land use, housing, and population sections. However, through us going through y'all's land use review on this wall to our left over here and talks with Shannon and you as a council as well, we've noticed, as was mentioned earlier, y'all's 40-year-old zoning ordinance is really getting up there in age and needing some changes and some updates and some reviews, not only for keeping it up to date with state standards, but also for the ease and ability of y'all as a council. So today I kind of want to go over the importance of this, what PMI is proposing, we help y'all do, the costs that'll be related to that, and the timeline that could come with that as well. Not working in my favor. Okay. So go ahead. Starting out with the importance and benefits, I kind of already touched on a lot of these topics. We're already well aware that West Walking has an outdated zoning ordinance, and for the ease of both council, the code enforcement officer, public works officials, and new incoming developers, having a more unified and up-to-date zoning ordinance would be very much a benefit. It supports the community's goals, so as y'all are currently working on that comprehensive plan update that we are working hand in hand with y'all on, this will allow for those goals and objectives, as Mr. Sprinkle discussed earlier, to align with the zoning ordinance as well. And then also it encourages better development outcomes. I know that the citizens here are all very concerned about new development coming in, and this gives a chance not only to look at those ordinances, reimagine them, but to also get public input on them and decide what is going to be best for the city of West Walking moving forward. From my personal review of y'all's ordinances and some meetings with Shannon, we've also seen some things that are kind of standard in some cities now that are not in y'all's ordinance that could really help. And it also provides a learning opportunity for the council, for P&Z, for city officials, for the citizens as well that attend public hearings to learn more about y'all's zoning process and how it works from the bottom up. So I want to discuss some of the key steps, what this is going to look like on y'all's end. First, we would have to define the roles between council and P&Z. It's a really quick just discussion kind of between PMI, y'all, about who wants to do what, how we're going to structure that process. Once we've defined those roles, we go into drafting the regulations. PMI already has a draft zoning ordinance that we kind of start out with that we've used with multiple cities, and we update as new legislation comes out. That is kind of what we bring to the table. We will bring that to y'all, and y'all can tell us yay or nay on whatever sections y'all might want. Y'all can ask us to do research, and we will put in new sections if y'all require it. Once we do that, we ensure that the zoning ordinance that we are adopting will align with the comprehensive plan that y'all will be adopting here shortly. We do not expect any problems with that stage as we are a part of that process. Fourth would be gathering community input. So that looks a little different in multiple ways. It includes community input as in public hearings. It could be town halls. It could be stakeholder discussions, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have to go into more of the legal steps, which is the review of the P&Z board and the review of city council, their action and adoption on this process. So I kind of noted to it earlier, but there is a few legal requirements, and this is where public management comes in and can really act as a guiding hand for y'all along with the city attorney. We will work hand in hand with her to handle some of these things. First being public notices. It is required by the city to give a public notice to every resident that you are changing the zoning regulation within. Public hearings along with that to inform them of the updates. And the citizens also do have a right at the end of this to petition the zoning ordinance as well. And if that became a problem, we would also help you in hand with your city attorney to handle that process and ensure that we have a smooth adoption process. Hopefully there will be no petitions and we will do our job in the community input section that they will be happy by the time we're getting this done. But it is a thing that I want y'all to be aware of. So now kind of the important information for y'all as a council. We have a contract written up that we have already shared with y'all that we propose the cost of this to be around $7,500. This would cover the ordinance development, all edits and review, map creation, in which we would create y'all a new zoning map, get that in y'all's hands. We can edit it as much as possible. Public hearings and the adoption process. The timeline we are expecting is around 6 months to complete this. However, I say that with the caveat of it depends on what the city does, how many reviews we decide to do, if any citizens decide to petition, all those kind of things will affect the general timeline of this project. However, we're very well versed in this. I've worked on multiple with my time with PMI. My higher up, Ken Kanye, he has also worked on these for the last 40 years. So we're well aware of what we need to do and what we can do to be successful in this. And that is my quick, brief overview, but I am open to all and any questions. I know this is a big undertaking for y'all, and I would like to be able to answer.
Is the $7,500 not to exceed, or is that the amount it is? In
Not
other
to
words, so if we have petitions and we have the additional, are there additional charges to the $7,500?
Not to exceed.
Okay.
So that will be we will ask for the 7,500 and that will be it. Unless for some reason it required, say, a whole new comprehensive plan change, which it will not. I will say that right now because we're helping y'all write the comprehensive plan. It is a not to exceed.
This is just planning and zoning ordinances only, right?
Yes, sir. So we will not be doing a codification of the whole ordinance book. We discussed that with Shannon. Our company does not do that type of services. However, we can give you resources to go about looking into doing that.
So if there is an ordinance so we'll rewrite the ordinance? I'm not understanding. We're going to rewrite some of the ordinances.
They would rewrite the planning and zoning portion of the ordinance, the zoning issue.
So that'll be like any other good cities would have, right?
Yes. So the most recent version that we have been working on, you can kind of compare to cities like Graham, Bryan, College Station, areas like that. Of course, we have our own twist and things like that to it from what we've seen because we work with much smaller communities than those are. But that's kind of what it stands at. If you want to look at examples from other communities, it would be a total rewrite of that zoning ordinance from page 1 to page, I think, 361 or something like that. It would require definitions, all your districts established, the setbacks, the land use tables, and also regulations on your P&Z and council in the adoption process, the replatting process, the whole nine yards.
So this is a 6-month plan. Lee, was you saying something?
I was just gonna ask, what kind of petitions have y'all dealt with in the past?
I cannot speak on that.
Can you talk about citizen petitions?
I cannot speak on that personally, as my time with the company, we've never had to deal with one, thank goodness. However, we are aware that it is something that is possible, and we want to make that very clear to the council that if it was to come up, we will be prepared to handle it. The majority of my research is if you have a petition, you still have to have 2/3 council majority vote, and things of that nature, and we'll just make sure we will work with Lee in making sure that all those things are handled appropriately into the legal standards.
Public hearings, would I need to handle those, or would you guys actually?
We
Do
would
all
come
that.
and be here for all the public hearings and handle them for you. Of course, we would still need, public hearing notices pushed out to the public and all
So
those.
I need to do notices.
Yes.
So
Yes.
$7,500, that's not a lot of money. What's y'all working like a developer afterwards or something, or? Like, what's
$7,500 is just the rewrite of the document itself, the ordinance itself. So at the end of this project, the deliverable y'all will get is the zoning map and the 300-something page document. The developers will come in, once we are gone, they will handle, it changes what they have to do from moving forward.
So the $7,500, we did not budget that.
Right.
The 6 months we paid at the end.
That is a great question. I do not know that information. However, I can get with my supervisor. He did already mention in talks with Mary and Shannon that we will work with you. However, that needs to look, we will work with you. We're already working with y'all with the comprehensive plan.
This is our current zoning ordinance.
We've looked through it. We had a good 2-hour meeting with the both of them, and we understand the situation y'all are in. Our whole goal as a company is to create sustainable communities, and that means we do not want to shorthand y'all. So if y'all need help, if y'all need some time, as long as there's a clear route of communication and a clear answer, we will work with y'all in whatever way y'all might need.
Do you help us determine what needs to be zoned?
What's the contract state? As far as payment.
Did we get the contract or
I got a piece of,
an email that just had a price on it, I think.
That's the contract.
Okay.
it's in the packet of 225 pages, but I'll isolate that and send that to you.
And if we need to rewrite that at all, it has not been signed yet, so if we need to rewrite that and get that back over to you to include any legal information, just let us know, and we'll put those edits through our legal team.
Okay.
How do y'all decide what needs to be zoned and where?
So it starts out with these two maps over here, so y'all already paid for this process. So this would be your existing and your future land use. These have gone through rounds of discussion with both y'all as a council, with Shannon, with other city officials, to get it to this point. And then what we do from here is we will start from scratch from this existing land use map. What you see is commercial, we would zone commercial, or we would zone C1, C2, C3, depending on the different variations y'all want in y'all's zoning ordinance.
So a lot of this will also come from like the comprehensive plan workshop will also help with this portion of this. Because when we look at that comprehensive plan, we're also looking at the zoning that's included in it. So we can say we want this to be SF1, or we want to no longer zone any future zoning SF2. We can create new zoning.
And we will, I don't want to be intimidated that y'all have to create new zoning. While yes, that is what y'all will get to do, because y'all currently do not have these zones, we will come in with zones already pre-written to what standards we see in most other Texas cities, what standards we're implementing in other communities y'all size currently. And y'all can change them, edit them, but y'all are not starting from scratch. So we have some of those standard things in there already.
It will also help update our subdivision ordinance, which we greatly need to do.
Any other question, guys?
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. Page 2E, or G, I'm sorry. Discuss and or take action to approve PMI's personal service to render new zoning ordinances and costs of service. Any discussion around any of that, any additional discussion?
It's a good deal, you know.
I think it's something we absolutely need.
Yeah.
As long as we're paying for it in the next budget year.
You know what, Chris?
Well, thank you.
I got I was reading an email from TML, and there's some grant money available for zoning update. Don't know if we can get it quick enough, but if we jump on it, we may be able to get some.
So if I was gonna add, just to let you know, so last year, when we were getting ready to do our comprehensive plan, we did plan it out well enough, and Jacob Markham worked with us to pay for it at the new budget year. So that's kind of where Chris was going, that if we could have the possibility of waiting to the budget year to then budget for that, so we're not having to make any budget amendments prior to. Does that make sense?
Yes, that gives us two options.
Yeah, so there's two very good options for it.
Make a motion, we approve PMI's professional services to render new zoning ordinances.
Got a motion? Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Check go.
Bring it in.
Greg Swinton.
Yes.
Chris Burkett. Right, moving on, H, discuss interaction to approve planning and zoning committee members Kilba Gilbert, Carly Urban, and Lee Bledsoe.
You want to say it?
Yeah.
Sure. So my name's Caleb Gilbert. I spoke to you earlier, but I think my presence on the planning and zoning committee would be greatly beneficial to the city. I am a licensed professional engineer. Been in this business for a very long time, over 10 years here in Dallas. I put so many lots on the ground, I can't even count. And, but a lot of experience dealing with both cities, counties, TxDOT, a lot of TxDOT, working with city councils, planners, planning and zoning committees, all that nature. So just please consider me. I think my time here will be very, very valuable to help the city grow very responsibly. Thank you.
Anyone, any of the other two here? Cecilia's here.
Hi, I'm Cecilia. Moved here in 2018, so I value what the future looks like in here. I've also been in construction since the mid-80s in commercial construction. I've been involved with city halls, McKinney City Hall, Frisco City Hall, so big projects down to, schools. I did a lot of work over in Rockwall School District as a project manager and an estimator. So I think I would be valuable to the city, and I'm excited about what can become of our area around here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Lee Bledsoe. I've been here about 10 years. I currently work with Siemens. I'm retiring in about 3 months. I've worked with Siemens and many engineers, architects, and developers throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Helped worked on Cowboy Stadium, Ranger Stadiums, several high-rises throughout towns. Worked with municipalities, fire departments, to work on code issues for the owners and developers to try to beat their projects down to make it compliant with the city, as well as for the owner's sake as well. So I've done that for about 44 years of doing all that work. So hopefully I can help you with the city.
Thank you.
All right, any discussion or? Not, look for a motion.
I think we got some really, really good qualified people. Our city is upgraded. It is. No question. I'll make a motion to approve Caleb Gilbert, chairman. No, that's not right. To approve PNC members Caleb Gilbert, Cecilia Irwin, and Lee Bledsoe.
I'll second that.
Got a first and second, all in favor?
Jeff Kobe.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes.
Chris Burkett. Welcome aboard.
And thank you for volunteering.
Yeah. All right, F, discuss interaction to approve Kayla Gilbert as chairman of Planning and Zoning Committee. Just gonna jump right into it, huh?
I guess so. Take the bone, so.
Any discussion?
No, he's more qualified than any of us. Actually, he is everything.
All right.
You're hired.
Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Jeff Kobe.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes, yeah.
Chris Burkett.
Randy, thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome in.
All right, moving on, J, discussion and or action to approve the resignation of Rhett Byers from Planning and Zoning Committee. Rhett is not here this evening. I spoke with him earlier today and he's just moving on to some different things, so take a motion to approve his resignation.
I'll make a motion to approve resignation.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Jeff Kobe.
Greg Sprinkle.
Could you second that again? I didn't
Chris
hear.
Burkett.
Right, thank you.
Number K, discussion and or action on approving building and standards committee members and placement for Jennifer, Donna, Troy Travers,
Jane
Keller, Billy Woodruff, David Paul, Kelly, Harry Roselle, and Michael Solaris.
So we need 5 members. We need 4 alternates. You guys are gonna pick the members and the alternates.
You didn't tell us that.
We're still a couple short for it to have enough alternates, but we have enough to put the committee together and start.
What do we need alternates? The other committees don't have it.
It's how it was structured in
How it
other
was structured.
cities. So that's how I structured it. The alternates are so if someone were to step down or not be able to fulfill, then the mayor gets to choose which alternate fills the position.
So you have it as just approving them,
And placement.
and placements, okay? So there you go, guys.
So these are all, this includes these alternates too?
Well, you need,
That's everybody I have. We're actually still short members in order to have enough alternates, but
You got 5 and 4, right? We have 5 and 3.
Is
We have 8
everybody
here.
here to speak?
Jane Keller is not here. She was actually on vacation this week. She does come from a construction background and has been in contact with me a lot and is very interested in this committee. One other thing with this committee, you cannot be on any other committees. You solely this committee. So if someone on this committee were to run for council, they would have to remove themselves from the committee if they got on council.
Can we see this, see everybody so we can thank them?
I'm not sure who else.
who's all in the audience?
Start from the beginning of the list, maybe that would help.
Jennifer?
Billy, Jennifer, Michael, David, Harry. I do not believe Troy Travers is here
I don't see
also.
Troy.
Yeah, he said he might not be able to appear, but he was still
I can't
committed.
even see you, the back.
So the way we need it is a motion with at least the 5 members, who they would be, and the 2 alternates.
So who are the 5 members?
And
So
they're
you gotta
ready to,
pick out of
they
those
will
yeah,
7.
introduce
yeah.
themselves.
Pick out of those 7, which 5 you want to be the members, and then 2 alternates until they get us 2 more alternates.
Did we ask them, if they want to be alternates or what?
Discussion, interaction, you sure can.
I told them to come prepared to introduce
Yeah,
themselves.
I think so. Ladies first.
No, it's good to hear.
You wanna come up one at a time and introduce yourself? Yeah.
Sure. Good evening, council and citizens. I am Jennifer Dahlman. I'm an agent with Coldwell Banker Realty, so I do have experience in residential and commercial. Most of my focus is always safety and structures. That even though you can talk every day about dream homes, at the end of the day, you need to make sure that your family is safe. So safety and structure are my 2 primary goals and priorities. I have worked with Shannon in the past because I represent some independent builders. I've helped them find vacant land here. We have built from the ground up. I put my name to certain projects and then I don't put my name to certain projects. So you will see my name back and forth. But if I put my name behind something and my license behind something, then I'm complete. I usually babysit it from purchase of vacant land all the way to the purchase from the end family. So I'm interested in serving. I'm not committed to any other commission or committee or organization. So I would be flexible to be committed to showing up at the meetings for the Buildings and Structures Commission. So I'm asking to be a member. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Just one question. So you, if you're trying to sell it or something, you may not be able to sell, right?
Correct. I mean, at this point, I don't have any current listings. I specifically made a choice to step back a little bit from this area so that I could support the council and Shannon specifically. So,
Any other questions?
but you're correct. I wouldn't have any conflict of interest right now.
Let in on this, but that's not gonna be a crossover issue, James. This commission was really designed to deal with substandard structures, and getting them up to code and things like that. I don't think you can expect any issues with sales.
Yeah, sales really isn't the issue with this. This is for getting buildings up to code. So,
So she can still be on it.
Yes.
She said it.
Mhm.
Okay. So you prefer to be on the committee other than alternate, right?
Correct. I'm asking to be a member.
okay.
Do you guys have any questions?
Who else is out there?
I'm Billy Woodruff. Been here since June of last year. I'm a general superintendent for a commercial construction firm out of Rockwall. Been in the business for about 30 years. I've been in the PM side of it. Stepped back down to do what I do now just because of quality control. Just seen a lot of stuff, and in our city, I like to be a part of the new growth and see the change. Met a lot of good people here, a lot of good friends, and was asked to come a part of this possible, committee and see what I can help do for our city. There's lots that needs to be done, and I'm a civil guy, but also structural and finish out too as well. So spent a lot of years in it, and I'm not the best, but I understand it pretty well. So any questions?
You prefer to be on the committee then, I suppose.
Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Harry Rosario here, been in the city of West Waukene since 2019. I am a welding and manufacturing consultant. I do work for quite a few companies. Lincoln Electric is one of them. So I consult for the defense, aerospace, and the energy sector. Lately, I've been writing welding procedures for building the next generation of nuclear submarines, working with Electric Boat, Newport News, those kind of companies. And it happens that I live here in town. So just volunteer myself in helping the city get better and better every day.
Any questions for Harry?
You prefer to be on committee or the alternate?
Go ahead. Yeah.
That's all.
Say that again?
My question is, how much do you travel? If you spend that much time in Newport News and dealing with those
I
companies?
work a lot remote.
Okay.
So
just curious if travel was part of the gig.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been doing this for 35 years. All right. Thank you.
Are you up to? Best for last. Good to meet you guys then. Honored to be here. David Kelly, new to the area, May of last year. Really honored to be here, more from an emotional point of view, for the community, by the community, right? I want to do my part. I worked for 30 years in heavy metal manufacturing as a consultant, doing production planning, plant maintenance, process orders, production orders, you name it. I was the architect of the system. My daughter's environmental and occupational safety advisor in the city of San Diego. So I don't have exposure to it, but my family does, right? Currently, I work for, I'm nervous, first of all. Currently, I work for IBM and I'm on contract with the US Navy. So I've been in the DoD space for about 14 months now. And I really understand the quality control bit that I heard earlier. I'll spend 8 hours writing what I think is a perfect functional spec, right? Only to pass over to QA and have it stamped and kick back and tell me how bad I really am. So segregation of duty, get it. And that way I can be an asset to this board. So I'm glad to be here. Glad for the consideration. Thank you guys.
Any questions for David?
Yeah, you said you just moved here recently. Where did you live beforehand?
Lived in Dallas. I have property in Kaufman, 5 acres in Post Oak Boone, and now live over here on Vance'ville. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Hello, gentlemen, again. My name is Michael Solades. I am an accountant, a lawyer, and also a construction worker. I run a crew of about, today there were 7 guys, and pardon my appearance, I was just underneath the Pier and Beam Foundation doing some Schedule 40 PVC plumbing. And I wanted to be in this committee because when I build, and everything that I build is for our own personal properties that are in their own entities, because we own single-family homes, a few apartment complexes, and a few shopping centers. So when it comes to construction, I do all of that. And I'm the one who wires our apartments. I do the plumbing, water lines, sewer lines, roofing, foundation. I do it all. If there's any legal questions that I have about any code, it's pretty easy for me to also look at any administrative code, health code. And I say health code because today I was having to, I'm finishing up a pool. It requires a lot of codes, every trade, and so I'm doing that as well. But I wanted to be here because I'm all about the future. When I build, I only build if I were to live there. I don't build thinking a renter is going to be here, put paint on it, and that's it. No, I don't do that. That's not me. Because in the legal community, reputation is everything. And if I put my name on it, my name goes a long way. And so I'm not going to do subpar work, nor would I expect someone else to do that. So I want to be here because I want to elevate the standards that we have here that, as we can tell by the codes, they're old, or sometimes the contract work is subpar. And I expect more from a place that we want to keep beautiful. So that's why I do want to be here. If there was the opportunity, I wouldn't mind being the sheriff. Because my standards are very high for building. Thank you.
Any questions?
What was his name?
Michael Solares.
Thank you, sir. I think that's it. The last two are not here. So you've got it there in front of you. Like I said, we need a motion to approve the first 5, and the second 2 will be alternates.
It's easy to approve the ones that are here. It's easy to approve the ones that are here, just 5 years, I'm like, so. Do you?
The one I have worked with the most that has actually asked a lot of questions, been pretty involved, and I know will be very involved is Jane. She was only not able to be here because her vacation was scheduled before we ever did the agenda.
So you think she's a good one to put on as a, okay?
I do.
And
She's
then-
been in and on construction sites her entire career. She's actually pretty knowledgeable.
And, what about Troy Travers? Have you worked with him much?
Jane and Harry are really the only ones I've worked a lot with. Well, and Jennifer. They would be the 3 that I've worked the most with.
Okay. We'll take that into consideration.
I do think a construction background is very important since we're talking about tearing down people's houses. Just a note. I mean, what these guys will do is they have the ability to go on the properties. They have the ability to look at these houses. They have the ability to say, this house can be fixed in this time frame, and this is what it would take. So when people come forward before them and present their plans, because they should have plans of, okay, we're gonna go ahead and tear this down, or we wanna rebuild it, we wanna remodel it. When they present those plans, construction backgrounds are going to know if it's feasible, if it's doable.
Sure.
So from my perspective, having a realtor and a remodeler, or Michael's background of, buying a property, fixing it up and reselling it, they can look at a property probably more specifically than I could and say, this property is salvageable and sellable, or this property should go. Just from my perspective, looking at it from a realtor's going to know whether or not they can sell it, and a construction person who's rebuilt one or remodeled one or flipped one is certainly going to know whether or not the bones are there to be able to make it. And then from another standpoint, I don't want it to seem like it's all men. And we have 2 women and 5 men on the committee, I think it's better to have multiple perspectives. So if we could balance the gender just from the standpoint of not having all one group have all the same ideas. I'll absolutely put that in a motion for you. I will make a motion that we put Jennifer, Michael, Billy, Jane, and Harry as the members, and Troy and David as the alternates, and David only because you're so new to this space.
It's okay. And I wasn't a good speaker.
Well, you got nervous and that bothered me a lot, so,
Not sure about the show.
All right, so we got a motion, do I get a second on the table? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? And you got it written down, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Ramsey Lynch.
Grace Franklin.
Chris Burkett.
David, it's hard to say when somebody comes in and say, we'll do this for free. We don't need any payment. This is all free work, right? What you're offering, what we're doing. It's very difficult to turn down something like that.
It is, and we do appreciate it.
We do.
Definitely.
Like I said, the only thing I looked at was the fact that you had not lived here as long, and that was the only thing that really kind of stood out to me.
I'll get in here someday. So, I just quit a job of 30 years to go work for the Navy because that's the one thing I never did in my youth. I didn't serve. So through 30 years to go work Navy. So I'm ready to do the civic duty, whenever it's done. So.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
And we do still have room for 2 more alternate positions if anybody wants to be there or knows anybody that wants to be on there. You do have to be a resident.
Push the word up. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to L, discuss interaction on progress of the Community Development Department. This is gonna be you.
We just put it together. So from here, we have to establish bylaws, schedule a meeting date, which I would really like to see the first Wednesday of the month. That way we still fall before council meetings. All of that would have to come before council to be approved once we establish it. Am I missing anything?
Just thinking.
No, I mean, we're gonna put bylaws in front of the development board, and then they'll vote on it, and then it'll come back before council to approve it.
So that would be the next step.
Now we've got people in place, and so now we already have a lot of things outlined, but we've got to do this bylaws and stuff like that, once we get them all together. I think we do want to set the first meeting, or make it the first Wednesday, get everybody there, since everybody's already here. We can get that scheduled, and then they can officially vote on when they want to do it. Do we want monthly? I think kind of get everybody together on what the plan will be.
Would 6 or 7 be better for everyone? They're all still here. 6 or 7 o'clock on the first Wednesday of every month, which would be better.
7 would help me.
7 o'clock first Wednesday of every month, good. So 7 o'clock first Wednesday.
That's all on that. We'll move on to M, discussion and or action on Public Works Department. This would be you.
All right. So far, we have, I've gotten several of them scheduled for class. 2 were scheduled to test. So right off the bat, we got hit with violations from the TCQ. So now we're working to get those taken care of. We've already resolved several of the issues, so we're in compliance with those now. We've been doing roads, weather permitted. We still got a lot to do there. And I've been trying to put into play a system for managing overtime.
How is that coming on?
It's coming pretty good so far. we've cut down on it quite a bit.
Obstacles?
What's the system, JD?
Say it again?
What's your system, she asked?
Describe the system.
Okay. So if it's anything too serious, then of course we gotta stay. But if it's nothing pressing, then we go home and come back and hit it first thing in the morning, the next day.
We've restructured the overtime, the who's on call schedule.
And there is so when I get the 2 water operators, I want to try to work something out to where one of them works Monday through Friday, the other one comes in Wednesday through Sunday. That cuts out any unnecessary overtime over the weekends from having to do labs every day of the weekend. If we can make that work with our pay, our
License?
no, our time.
Yes. So there's a lot of overtime being used on the weekends for calls from citizens and the fact that we already have people there doing labs. So he's trying to incorporate just having one person there, so when they are there doing the labs and they do get a call, they can be able to break away, take care of that, and already still be on the clock, not having to use a separate person on the clock at the same time. If that makes sense.
That does do it quite a bit.
Yes. That's where your bulk of your overtime is.
Obstacles.
We haven't really hit any obstacles besides weather. Weather's our main obstacle right now. Other than that, we've been rolling pretty smooth.
Can you tell me what the violations were in plain enough terms I can understand it?
Well, there's about 17 of them.
Okay.
I can send you a copy
Yeah,
Okay.
if that'll help. If you guys want to.
but they were all concerning on the sewer side.
Jerry, you have been on the job for about a month now, right?
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. How do you feel?
No, it's not overwhelming.
No.
No, I
like it?
just gotta take it a day at a time.
Will you like it?
Oh, yeah. No, it's not overwhelming at all. I mean, it can be. It can get there real fast. But
Any kind of complaints from citizens or anything?
none. Well, besides roads. Roads is really our only complaint. Roads and ditches. Which we got a plan. I'm getting with Grady, and we're gonna get on ditches once, we get some dry. It's gotta be dry in the ditches.
Anything else, guys?
Is there anything council can do to make that better?
No, ma'am.
With the weather?
Give us some sunshine.
Hey, if you got that skill, tell me about it. But I just mean the flow.
No, not really. That's just a budget thing, and when we're able to, we gotta roll with it.
So I have 2 things. First thing, last month or last meeting, we talked about head count, and you said you felt like we had enough people. Do you still feel that way?
I do.
Okay. And second thing is, last council meeting, we talked about you getting your license and waiting for the state to do their part.
Still on that.
Okay. I want to follow up with stuff that we talked about last time.
I actually had a small hiccup, so I had to resubmit it.
Okay.
Because I checked the wrong box.
Check the wrong box. Been there.
So I had to resubmit it, so.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're still following the path that we're talking about, right? So that's perfectly fine. But you still feel like your head count's good?
Oh, yeah.
That was the one I was most concerned about. Okay.
So you mentioned about 2 additional water people that you're going to get. Is that
No, licensed.
license? I got you.
So I want at least 2 water operators and 2 sewer operators. That way, in case one's out, then we got another one.
With your existing employees,
I got
though, when they get the appropriate licensing, then it's not 2 new people, it's the existing one that's getting the right license, right?
Right.
Anything else? Anything else, council, or questions? It's written as discuss and or action on public works. I'm not sure what action would need to be taken at this time, other than, to leave him in that position and keep doing what he's doing and keep moving forward with it.
Good with that.
Make it as a motion.
I make a motion, we leave it as is. We leave JD in
Review in
place.
another month.
Review in another month.
Got a motion to leave JD in the position and review it next month's council meeting.
I'll second that.
Got a first and a second, all in favor?
Chad Jacoby.
Yes, Franklin.
Chris Burkett.
Who seconded that? Thank you.
All right, moving on to N, potential executive session, discuss and or action on public work director's salary. No, we don't need that. I guess if we're gonna talk about salary, we do need to move to the back. So we'll adjourn temporary while we move to the back, if you wanna
Probably a good time to
pause that.
Lee, do you want me to bring you with me?
Citizens, I thank y'all for sticking it out. It is a long agenda this evening.
Hey, where's the pause at?
You don't pause it, just mute it.
Dinner.
What is this?
All right, we're back in regular session. What time is it? 9:10, wow, all right. All right, guys, we'll keep moving on here. So, moving back in, return to open session, discuss action salary for Public Works Director. So,
I make a motion that we approve the salary raise to 26 an hour, and we review it at a later date after licensing.
okay, I got a first and a second. All in favor?
Chad Jacoby?
Randy Lindsay.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes.
Chris Burkett. There you go. All right, moving on to O, discussing interaction to approve budget amendment for contract labor. Mary.
So, we now are paying 2 licenses. We're paying for surface water and then the wastewater. We didn't have a budgeted line item for that, so what I did is I took, 28,000 from the salary and putting it into 2 contract labor lines, one for water, one for sewer. Pass that around, just more of a standard, we need to have this, so it looks clean on the budget. Of course, that's obviously not fully done, it's the waiting for approval state. And then there's still a few more, budget amendments that we can make. We are not paying an extra employee's insurance, health insurance. So then we can then move that back into salary to try to rebalance that out, recover some of those costs that we are putting into contract labor.
And Mary, and also the salary difference, the
Yes.
salary, that'll go into that too.
Yes, that's, so right now you can see on that page, it tells you what the remaining salary is for the water sewer fund. And like I said, I'm gonna need to move the insurance that's unused, put it in, back into that, so then it gives us more of a real number as what's left over.
Everybody understand that? So we're looking for a motion to approve the budget amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Chad Jacoby?
Randy Lindsay.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes, sir.
Chris Burkett. There you go.
Thank you. Get that officially put in, and I'll send you guys updated financials once that's complete.
Okay. Moving on, P, discuss interaction on update on CDBG grant. Who is, got the update on that?
This was requested, I'm not sure what questions are on it, but I can give you kind of a generalized update. We went out to bid. We have received those bids. We are currently waiting on a final approval from environmental in order to award the bid. So we have to still sit down with Jacob and Martin and go over those bids for what each piece of the project is and figure out what's best for us.
What does CDBG stand for?
CBG, Community Development Block Grant. That's gonna be our big grant that we, were awarded last year for the upgrades to the water plant.
How much is it?
Don't hold me 100%, 455,000 plus or minus a little bit. I don't know the exact dollar amount on it.
And that was to be spent on,
Water plant upgrades. So we've got, what are the 3 main projects in English?
SCADA's one.
So yeah,
We
we're
still
finishing
gotta-
the SCADA and then
Gotta
there's
take
the,
away the charts and they're 30 years old.
was the clarifier one of them.
Yes, clarifier's one,
And then the third one was,
the piping.
yes, the piping for going to headworks, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so there's 3 main projects. I can give you guys kind of more of a itemized list and the normal terms that we're given. That makes it easier to understand, and what those bids look like. But we haven't approved anybody or awarded any bids because we're waiting on the final environmental to approve for the piping and headworks.
Everybody good? It's written as discussed interaction, but there's really no action to be taken at this time. I've been asked if we can bump Z up real quick. Kathy has asked to try to get out of here. So if y'all don't mind if we can bump Z up real quick. You're okay with that?
Somebody might
Good with it?
make a motion to take it out of order.
So we need a motion to take it out of order.
I make a motion, we take it out of order and bump Z to in between P and Q.
We got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Judge Gobi.
Greg Swank.
Chris Burkett. There you go, Kathy.
Okay, I'll make this quick. The Kaufman Young Marines, I'm here on behalf of them, Kathy O'Neill. And they have asked to be able to use the park. We've let them use it in the past. They always leave it cleaner than it was when they got there. So they usually, well, this year they'll bring a bear. She'll post it on Facebook and they'll say, missing Sergeant Bear. They go out with maps and everything and they look for this bear. You know, he's usually hidden in the woods. So I'm just asking that they be allowed to use the park on April 12th.
What day
When
is it?
you say use the park, you're talking about camping overnight?
Yeah, they want to camp overnight,
So
so we
that's-
usually don't charge them.
That's what she's looking for,
This is
because we don't just give the park open
Right.
to anybody. But in order to allow them to camp overnight for free, if I understand it right, is what you're asking. Okay.
So what day is it?
April 12th,
The day? Is it Saturday, Sunday?
I believe it's Saturday.
No, you don't have to go through it. I'm just asking a question.
Yes, it is a Saturday.
What group is it that's doing that?
Kaufman Young Marines. We tried to get them started out here, and we're hoping we still can. Kevin has joined the Young Marines, and he's helping them out too. Kevin,
Burn.
PD.
How many should we expect? How many usually come roughly?
12, 16, something like that.
So you're looking at allowing 12 people to camp overnight for free. Kids. And I do know, being on council, we did do it last year, and I believe the year before, I'm not sure.
I'll make a motion that we approve the kickoff.
I'll second.
So I got a first, and I got a second.
Second.
Another second.
I'm gonna go Greg being first, second.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
all in favor?
Judge Gobi.
Ramsey name.
Greg Swank.
Yes.
Chris Burkett. All right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Moving back up to Q, discussion and or action on EDC presentation, Donna Milburn. Thank you, Donna, I know it's been a long week.
I'm exhausted. But you guys still have more to do after this, so if y'all can do it, I can do it as well. Thank you for letting me come and talk to you guys a little bit. You've got 3 agenda items that are coming up after this one that relates to the EDC. And the first thing I want to do is clear up some miscommunication that happened at Citizens Input regarding the meeting that occurred on February 12th. Maybe not in your packets, but I believe, Mary, you gave them the minutes from that meeting.
Yes, they've got that. They received paper copies today.
Yes.
And they received the email breakdown for you.
Okay, all right. So on that special meeting, which was called by Kathy O'Neill, she was the one who created the agenda. On that meeting, it was Brett Byers who requested to go into executive session to discuss some ongoing negotiations. We came out of that executive session and didn't make any actions based on the executive session. He asked to take it out of order. There was a motion, it was approved, it was taken out of order. Then we came back in, and at that point, Allison had given her resignation. And the board, where we had a quorum, we had 4 people who were physically present. We had Elizabeth Osborne that was on the phone, and it was unanimously voted me to come into the position of president. And I'm going to do that for them until I get too exhausted to do it any longer. We have made some significant progress since I got on, so I want to bring the citizens and the city council update on some important news and information. The first is that we have resolved significant financial issues that have been taken care of. Mary has been absolutely wonderful. She's been an amazing person to work with. Lee has been wonderful as an attorney. She hears a little bit more from me than maybe she thought she would be hearing from the, just getting started here. I want to let y'all know that the Fat Cats contract with Jason and Stacy Jones, the loan that was made in 2023 of $13,500 has been completely repaid. They made 3 payments of $254.76, and then they paid off the loan this year with a total of $13,410.72. So we got the interest that was expected on that loan. They are paid off, and that is good. Capel Investments LLC, purchaser of the unimproved real estate property at 1552 East State Highway 276, made its final payment for the land of $50,000 on October 31st of last year. So that is good. Good money in the bank for the EDC. The Rabbit Cove Road loan that was made to the EDC, that the EDC made to the city in November of 2020 for $72,865. That was to be paid back monthly to the EDC at the rate of $1,612.82 for 48 months. That was a 3% interest rate. We gave you guys the loan. At that time, I was on city council, so I was on the other end of that. But we gave you guys the loan to finish off to match so that we didn't lose the grant to repair Rabbit Cove Road. The city had been paying that back. Mary and I got together to look and make sure that all of that was done, and we successfully did that on March 3rd. The final payment of $4,839.46 was made. Therefore, the contract has been completed and the city has repaid completely to the EDC for the Rabbit Cove Road project. Mary and I worked on the tax payments that needed to be coming in that had been off a little bit, and we got the last payment of those tax money of $31,869.42 paid into the EDC bank account on February 28th of this year. So right now, all of the contracts we've had, I've gone through them. I've gone through all the minutes from 2021 through the present day. I have reviewed everything that the board has been doing. I've been in contact with the state comptroller's office. I'm working with them diligently to correct some of the issues and concerns that they have. And that's why you're going to see some other issues here that I'd like to see if you guys will agree with what we corrected that we're trying to make correct for the state comptroller's office. The only contract that we have outstanding that has not been paid is that Fishing Nutrition, Miss Cassandra Cantrell, was made a loan of $2,664.82. She was supposed to be repaying on that. She's not made any payments back on that. So the EDC our board has not taken that up again. I want to have a chance to go out and talk to her and see what's going on, see if she's even still running her business. And, again, I want to point out and recognize and point out for y'all and for the citizens, the EDC is here to help people. We're not here to go after people who have tried to make a business and have failed. So it's not our place to go out and be suing people or taking them to small claims court. If we have given loans to people where we didn't have some of the proper contracts or we had really verified they were the best place to give that loan, that's on the EDC. That's not on that business owner. So we've got to show compassion for people if they're not able to repay that. And I think that loan is probably going to fall into that category. So what you're going to find is that on that date of February 12th, a special session, Allison Bell Zurevich. She resigned on that date. We have a issue that we're going to come to in a little bit about the bylaws that were approved in 2023 and filed on May 10th of 2023 with the state, where her position and all the board positions had expired. Her seat had actually expired back in 2024. So when she resigned, at that point, that seat became open. We have another opening that was still there, and that's Pam Reed's position. She resigned in January from the presidency. So her position is still open. These positions have been out there now and publicized. People have turned in paperwork for them. On February 12th, our board recommended to City Council that you approve Cynthia Phillips, to fill one of those seats. She spoke to us. She's here tonight to be able to speak to you. The other seat that's open, we would like to ask for the City Council to appoint Mary Chumley into that seat. We have a situation where there's been a misunderstanding over the last few years between the relationship between an EDC, an Economic Development Corporation, and a city. They are not separate entities that don't connect with each other. If you want to think of them as a Venn diagram, although the person who always loved Venn diagrams, maybe that's not the one I want to use. We overlap, okay? So the example that I gave to Mary would be somebody who owns a home. If you've ever purchased or you own a home, you are a homeowner and you own everything within that property of the home. If you sell that home, everything in that property goes with that home. At the front of that property is an area called an easement. Even though you own that easement and you have to maintain that easement and you have to mow that easement and you can't go build walls or moats or do stuff on that easement because even though it belongs to you, there's rules and laws, it doesn't exactly belong to you. The city is like the homeowner. The EDC is like the easement. The city generally has in other cities has either the city secretary, the court clerk, the city attorney on the EDC board. And it typically has one or more city council members on the EDC board. We can have up to 4 seats filled with city staff and city council members. And that's the reason they do that is because the city and the EDC work together with the same common goal of bringing in business, bringing in money from outside of the city into the city. And if you don't have that connection between the two, then you end up having an EDC that's not able to function to the level that it could function. And you have a lot of meetings that I have to then do with Mary to work with her and for us to be able to get the things that we need done. So that's why you're going to find on R a request for you to appoint Cynthia Phillips and Mary Chumley into those 2 vacant seats. That will give us a full board. The second thing that you're going to see next for discussion S is an action to revoke the 5-year EDC plan that was approved in 2023. On our meeting on March 3rd, we revoked this plan. EDC had approved this plan for a 5-year plan. City Council had agreed with it at the next meeting and accepted it. And we have some significant problems in this plan. Not only are there misinformation in here, not only is it not presented in a business kind of format the way you want to have out there for business owners and people to come in, but some of the misinformation in there significantly deters businesses from coming into this city and is the opposite of what Jacob Martin presented to you in a comprehensive city plan. This page here, on page 11, says that our population growth rate has been declining from 2010 to 2023 and predicts a continual decline from 2024 to 2029. Now, you're aware from the Jacob Martin presentation that our population is increasing. It is not decreasing. The problem with having a document like this that's been accepted by EDC and accepted by the City Council of West Waukene means that businesses out there, like Atmos Energy, when they come out to talk to us, they research us before they come out. And they research what we have online, and they research our website, and they research everything about us. Because when we're asking somebody like Atmos Energy to give us a financial estimate for what it would take to bring natural gas here, their estimate will be higher or lower based on whether we're growing or we're declining. This is not a good document, in our opinion, to have accepted. So on March 3rd, the EDC voted and revoked this document.
Why did they put that in the beginning like that?
I can tell you that.
Well,
The reason was because that came off of the US Consensus Board website. That information came straight from the US government.
it's a problem document. We have revoked it and we're asking for y'all to also revoke it today. We will develop a new 5-year plan that matches with the Jacob Markey Comprehensive City Plan that's been presented to the city.
What happens when you just get rid of that plan? Does anything as far as?
No, it's just more like a PowerPoint presentation saying, here's who we are, here's where we've been, we're losing people, basically that, and here's who's on the EDC.
Are there other areas where it conflicts with the Jacob Markey plan?
Yes. And there's grammar problems, and there's fragments, run-on sentences. I mean, it's not the kind of business plan, it's not the kind of business plan that you want to have representing the EDC or representing the city. So Brett Byers made the motion for us to revoke it. I think Larry Paris seconded it. But the motion is to revoke it and to develop a new 5-year plan that's consistent with the Jacob Markey Martin Comprehensive City.
Like what would be the changes in that plan?
Well, we need to have a plan that has accurate information, that shows our city growing, that talks about what kind of businesses we want to bring in, that talks about where we're going to go, and we're going to set up booths and information for people to learn about the EDC. There are all kinds of places all around North Texas that you can go, and you can actually recruit businesses from Frisco, from Fort Worth, from Lubbock, to consider coming and doing development here. So we need a plan that has that kind of information. And you should have a document in your packet that explains how we made that motion and why. And then T is going to, on here it says revoke the current 5/10/2023 articles of incorporations until new bylaws are created that align with state rules and regulations. Now, the way we did this motion was very careful. I tried to listen to Lee and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. What happened is there appeared to be some misunderstanding about what EDCs do and about our original articles of incorporation, which are right here. So the EDC was incorporated in 1995, and it was incorporated correctly. I contacted the state comptroller's office because the stuff that I was hearing, I wanted assurances that it actually was done correctly before I would step in and be on this board. I hold a license in Texas as a psychologist. I don't get involved in things that are not set up correctly if it's going to cause any kind of problem with my license. They came back and they assured me this is the correct document. It was correctly incorporated in 1995. Mary, I have found that in the records back there. Mary has a copy of that to be able to scan and upload. So every one of you can get this. And it's very well done. Now this is what happened in 2023 is not a problem with the entire document that was filed on 5/10/2023, adopted by the EDC, and then approved and adopted by City Council. But we have a problem with Article 4, Section A, purpose and limitations for what the EDC does. I'm going to read this to you. It's in that write-up that you have, and you're going to know immediately what the problem is, I suspect. It says that the EDC, the corporation, is organized exclusively for charitable, religious, educational, and scientific purposes. For such purposes, the making of distributions to organizations that qualify as exempt organizations under sections 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code or any future tax code. Now, the attorney did this, not Lynn. The prior attorney did this. And the problem is you can immediately tell there's an issue because nobody here thinks that the EDC should be taking tax dollars and a portion of the tax dollars and giving to religious organizations. You can't do that. You can't take tax dollars and give to education. You can't take tax dollars and give to charities. And EDC builds business and brings money, tourist, business growth into the city. It does not fund these things. And I found in some of the boxes that I went through that somebody had been going online and had printed out articles about what EDCs could do when they were in the process of writing this up. And the problem was those online documents were just for, in general, what happens throughout the country. Maybe in Delaware you can do this, but in the state of Texas, you cannot do this. So the comptroller, this was published on the EDC website so that the state comptroller was able to click on the button, pull it up and read it. And I have sent an email and communicated and promised we would get this fixed ASAP. Now, the great news is I've gone over all the spending since 2023 till today, and I can assure you, none of it went for these organizations, okay? None of it went to religion, none of it went to charity. Every bit of money that was spent went to what it's allowed to be spent for on a Type B EDC. But what we want to do is we want to clean the language up right there and just be able to acknowledge and say, it's been cleaned up with our board, it's been cleaned up with city council, and we're going to write new bylaws with the help of Lee that are consistent with the state of Texas laws. Okay, does that make sense? So the one thing I did not do is work with you, Lee, on the exact wording that was in there, but I'll tell you the wording that we used. Rhett Byers made a motion to return to following the West Tawakoni Development Corporation bylaws established in 1995, Articles 1 through Articles 9, passed and approved by the West Tawakoni Economic Development Committee on November 20, 1995, and passed and approved by the West Tawakoni City Council on December 5, 1995, and to cease following Article 4, Purpose and Limitations A, of this document filed on 5/10/2023. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're not throwing the whole baby out with the bathwater. We're just saying we're not following this because we know we're not supposed to. And we are establishing that we know these are our original incorporation documents. Okay?
So you don't need this anymore, do you?
Well, we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We're not following Article 4A. And then we made a separate motion. Rhett made a separate motion to then, for the EDC to work with the attorney and develop new articles of incorporation and or bylaws of incorporation that use wording that is more consistent with the regulations set by the state of Texas. And that's what we passed. Any questions?
And so what, and I can talk about that briefly, it's just what we talked about too is, and this will come up more, but the government code really gives you a pretty well-defined purpose, and a lot of what the EDC can do, we're kind of looking at is we're gonna be adopting an amendment and put in that place of that section, something that's much more aligned with just the statute.
So that wording was a little difficult. Does that wording work for you, Lee, the way we did that?
It's a little, well, yeah, we get there.
Okay, all right. Well, so this would be the wording that y'all would use for the first. And then this would be the wording that you use for the second. Okay? So, because I can't even do it without reading it all. But does it make sense? Do you guys understand?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, I'm not going to repeat the expletive the person at the comptroller's office used with me. I just will tell you that they used one, and I promised we would get it fixed ASAP. All right, so any other questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
When Allison spoke earlier, she mentioned something about an illegal meeting or a meeting that was, or not enough votes for to vote you in as president. What's the thoughts on that? Or
All right, so that was the first thing that I addressed when I came up. So February 12th was a special meeting. We had a quorum present. We had 5 people present, and we had Elizabeth by phone. We went into executive session because Brett Byers made a motion to take that out of turn, and then a motion to go into executive session to talk about upcoming business negotiations. We came out of that section, and there was no action taken from what was discussed in there. Allison left and said she resigned, and then the board voted to make me president. So there were 4 votes present, which is a quorum, and we all voted. And then Elizabeth Osborne, whether her vote counts or not on the phone, we still had a quorum physically present. So they unanimously voted me to be president.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our discussion and our action to appoint the following members to the Economic Development Corporation: Cynthia Phillips and Mary Chumley. Any discussion on that? I'll take a motion.
Make the motion
I'll second.
to appoint Cynthia Phillips and Mary Chumley to EDC.
Second All in favor?
Judge Kobe.
Yes.
Chris Burkett.
So Cynthia Phillips, I mean, if you can stand up and just say a few words, so we haven't. Cynthia.
Let's just see if
Cynthia, out there, does anybody not know Cynthia?
Hello, my name is Cindy Phillips. I've been out in this area for almost 4 years. I'm a business owner over in Quinlan. I have a barber shop out there. I'm all about helping my community, being a part of my community, and helping others.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Mary.
So you all guys know me. I feel like I'd be good for the EDC just to help be that liaison between the city and the EDC to kind of repair that kind of questionable relationship that it's always had that stigma as.
Thank you, Mary.
Moving on is discussion and or action to revoke 5-year plan. Revoke the 5-year plan for the 5-year EDC plan. I think she discussed all that there.
I'll make a motion to revoke that 5-year plan.
All right, we got a first. Wait a second.
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Judge Kobe.
Ramsey Lindsay.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes, sir.
Chris Burkett. Moving on to T. Revoke current 5/10/2023 articles of corporation until new bylaws are created that align with the state rules and regulations.
Is that really revoking it or is it amending?
I would call it amending and use the wording on the sheet because I think that sheet that I have, the way that Rhett said it, makes it's an amendment.
Okay, yeah, I was just concerned what happens if you revoked it and then you got a void there until another set of bylaws is.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking to reinstate the 95 articles of incorporation, but we're also needing to amend the bylaws, especially in respect to the purpose section, which is that section 4 of the bylaws.
Yes, the attorney said it's simpler.
Okay. Thank you.
Just need a motion to do that.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We have, did we revoke?
Reinstate?
Did we amend?
Reinstate.
And reinstate the 1995.
I'll second.
You got a first and a second?
Judge Kobe.
Ramsey Lindsay.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes, sir.
Chris Burkett. You discuss and/or action to approve ordinance number 329-03-11-2025, an ordinance amending the code of ordinance, chapter 5, fire protection on the city of West Walkeny, providing for a penalty of a fine not to exceed $500 for each offense, providing the savings clause, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer clause, providing for publications, and providing for an effective date.
So the purpose of this is to modify the portion of our code of ordinances that disallows the sale of fireworks in the city limits. It would allow the sale under the circumstances laid out in the ordinance. That has to be a permanent building, no connexes, no temporary buildings. It has to meet the 2018 international codes, which is what we currently have. However, it is worded that it just meets our current adopted code. So if we were to adopt newer versions, it would just move up with it. You would still have to pass all the stuff with the fire marshal. You would have to meet all of the state requirements, the insurance requirements, and you still could not possess them in the city. If you were to buy them, you would have to be leaving the city limits with them. So it still does not allow anyone to possess them or let them off or sell them in the city unless they are approved to do so by meeting that section of requirements.
So if you can buy them, why can't you store them in the city too?
If you can buy them, why can't you store them in the city?
If you can buy them in the city, why can't you keep them in the
I mean, we
city?
can modify it for it to be that way.
I mean, it just makes it difficult if you're,
We don't,
go ahead, Lee.
I was gonna say, well, because we don't let anybody shoot them off inside the city limits.
But if they're gonna go somewhere else, why can't they store them?
Yeah, if you got them in the trunk of your car, I go to the fireworks stand, I buy a bunch of fireworks, I go to the house, I load up my cooler and,
Yeah.
they drive by my house and they see my trunk open and it's got, I'm violating the law and I just bought them 500 yards away. I get the,
confirm the prosecution of it, that would be pretty difficult from as the person who's prosecuting it, it would be difficult.
And then the 5,000 feet outside city limits.
Why can't you just ban it outright? Ban the sale and.
well, that's the way it is now.
Currently, that's the way it is. We're trying to make it where they can sell
Right.
them.
There's a lot of tax revenue to get from that. I mean, everybody that goes to the lake goes to East Walkeny and they go to Quinlan and spend a fortune and we don't get
Like,
any
how do
of
we
that
just
tax.
completely ban them living that close to the lake? How did that happen? And not having able to have them living that close to the lake?
How did we ban them?
No, yeah, why is it banned completely? I'm just having them.
Volunteer fire department on 3 words I can think of.
Right, but if you just have them, you're not shooting them off. Why is that banned completely?
Janet, you shoot her lady answer
From
that?
your dock, you live on the water?
I mean, we can't answer what the previous councils wanted to do.
Correct.
I mean, truthfully, that's just kind of what the city wants, the
So-
section city of Dawn.
I mean, if you want to allow them to be
Fireworks.
let off or allow them to be kept in the
No,
city, then I can
not-
modify that.
Not
But
let off, but possession.
I can modify it where they can possess them.
I kind of agree with Chad. What's the point if
You're gonna sell them.
you're gonna sell them, not being able to have them in the trunk of your car or your garage or whatever, and because you're gonna go somewhere to fire them.
You can.
I think if you're gonna change and amend that, it needs to be to a certain amount.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
You don't want bottle rockets going off when you're trying to put fire out or
prefer not.
artillery shells?
So it's safe to say that it looks like
I
you're,
mean, here's, practical, I give you like a practical thing that occurs. Let's say you get a call from somebody that says, my neighbor is shooting off fireworks. The problem is, if you get there, they're not currently shooting them off, then you can't prove that there's any issue. That's where the possession comes into play. It's that you know that they have them in possession. That's why you do it that way. It's not, you're not looking to prosecute the person who's got them in the trunk of their car. You're looking to prosecute the person who's got Roman candles at the, or those water rockets at the end of the driveway. And you can see that they've done that.
That's a fair point.
So can we approve an ordinance with these required modifications?
It allows transportation.
Is that a lot of money?
So that also it says on there 5,000 feet from the city limits. How does that get enforced, or why would that be enforced outside city limits?
I think that was in our original ordinance already.
Just on page one. It's 240 grand. Just that stuff. So we're gonna require permits?
The fire marshal would, be involved in that process, yes.
I mean, I don't just want anybody to open their house and sell.
No, they would have to have a certificate of occupancy stating that's what the building's being used for.
Okay.
So they would have to pass all inspections.
Yeah, it means it has to be all up to code. It's not just go picking them.
Right, but are we gonna charge permit fee? Can we charge permit fees, Lee?
We do charge permit fees.
Well, but for
No, he
selling
means for
fireworks.
them to sell them. We charge permit fees for the construction
build
of
the
the
building.
building and all of that.
Currently, you've got a state permit that you have to get in order to be able to sell them. I mean, I don't, could be added on for a city
Can we
permit
put a
as
city
well.
permit? I mean, if, you know, the only real advantage to the city is tax revenue.
Mhm.
And so we're looking at revenue as the reason, would be the driving force. Why would we not want to collect our revenue up front?
It's not much money, man. It's, let's say 200.
Is that we charge a lot for the permit.
But, yeah. Otherwise.
Depends on how much we charge for the permit.
Your state permit's only.
Otherwise, it's very little, you know.
Why can't the city's permit be $500?
But it's still like, that's only, not much money, you know, but.
Yeah, it's
that's
really
so
not.
much more money, so much more work for game, right?
Huh?
That'll probably add a lot.
It'll
more
probably
work.
add more work, yes.
It's not a lot of money. Even if they sell $250,000, we get $37.50 for the city, that's it.
It's crazy.
You don't get a lot of money.
So do you want to approve it with amendments, or do you want to take it back and?
I'm looking at it, yeah.
Yeah,
I need to know what amendments you want in order to amend it.
Probably removing the perception of them and the 5,000 feet outside city limits. Permit?
And I think we ought to charge for a permit. Suggestions on permit fees?
Are we,
Can we do that, Lee?
Permit to sell them? Permit to sell them?
Yeah.
I think we can charge permits for lots of different things. Practically speaking, a lot of times when we're doing permits for things, what we're really charging for is our cost to have somebody come inspect. A lot of times permits really aren't money making, like, deal for the city. So, yeah, we absolutely can. I mean, I might look at it like occupancy fees as well, to get the certificate of occupancy.
But as Chris, as they pointed out, there's some opportunity for there to be added cost to the city to enforce the rules, to manage the abuse, right? Is that what you're thinking about, Chris, is the abusers? If we're gonna incur that cost, I think we should collect fees to offset it.
So you're looking at a yearly permit fee.
Annual permit fee to be able to sell it in the city.
How much are you looking for that to be? Your state is around $25 or $35. And basically with your state, fire marshal comes around at least once a year and checks the facility. They do a full inspection for safety, for the type of fireworks that you have, so on and so forth.
And we're not allowing Connex boxes or,
What are we charging for the certificates of occupancy?
That's commercial, I think it's it's either 150 or 200, I can't remember.
That's a one-time.
We don't do a lot of commercial
Okay, so
yet,
That's a one-time fee though.
Okay, so we,
or if the business
okay,
changes
okay, so we
hands.
do,
Tell you no matter what we do here, the state's still gonna require their permit.
Sure, and we should, I mean, we should follow those rules, whatever the state rules are.
Are you good, Lee, with
so
them?
yeah, how do you, that, I mean, we're fine doing that, it's just what do you guys wanna do as far as a fee? And we can write something in there to add it, but I don't know how much we're talking.
I don't really know what position it is, you know? I don't.
I mean,
don't have a
once the increased, what are we thinking? I mean, we gotta think about this logically, what do we think is gonna increase cost wise for us, for enforcement, that kind of thing? I mean, Chris, you have a better feel for it because you deal with fire.
So, I mean, it would just be, just like the state does it, you go out and inspect it one time a year. You're just inspecting for safety and the brand of fireworks, the amount of, my mind's not thinking. Basically the size of the firework to make sure it's all standard consumer grade.
Okay.
I just think it's ridiculous that we said that the number of people that leave from the lake to go to Quinlan to buy fireworks to come back to the lake is, we're not taking advantage of an opportunity that we have.
It's not a lot of money, man. It's the opportunity.
It's gotta be enough money for Big Mamas to have a
They make
full-time
it,
building.
but we get 1.5% of the sales tax. Sales tax that we get is
Sure,
1.5%.
sure, but it's a big enough deal for Quinlan to allow them to do it. And I mean, it was a big enough deal for them to draw the city limits lines around that building.
Yeah.
So that it's not in the city limits to allow it to be done.
And I think just go with like a $500 annual inspection, permit fee.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion on all that?
A lot
I'm
of
not, somebody else maybe.
That's a mouthful.
I'll make a motion, we charge a $500 fee for permits and allow the sale of fireworks within the city limits with the amendments of
5,000 feet.
5,000 feet and possession,
Possession of inside city limits, just having them on you.
possession, should there be a for personal consumption clause in there? As opposed to, you know,
On that one, I might want to think about that.
can we put a limit on it, some sort of limit on the amount that you can have in your personal possession?
Listen, I mean, that's complicated at that point.
I can tell you, I can tell you that's gonna
Fireworks becomes a terroristic issue.
It's gonna become
Blessing in the house is okay, what's the deal?
It's gonna become a big issue because you've got a couple of people around here that actually spend
Thousands
and thousands and thousands of dollars on them.
Yeah.
So that's a hard one to put in there.
I'm gonna say that while I think removing the 5,000 feet makes sense, I don't know that we want to necessarily remove possession altogether. Or change it to just where we've got it in the people are allowed to transport it. I would,
Suggestion on the,
you might as
on the possession
We
piece?
have it where they're allowed to transport it in there already.
Yeah, transport, it's already in there. Chaz, you got an idea?
How is it written right now? Where they can take it from them if you got them on you? Like they can pull you over and take the fireworks from you currently?
well, but if you're transporting it, no, because you're allowed to
Transport it,
transport
they're
it.
allowed to.
You're pulling it, you'd get fined if you were shooting them out the roof of your car.
Right.
You're gonna have that problem. If we want, I mean, that's my concern is you're gonna get, if you allow possession altogether, even if they're not being fired, you're gonna get people who are firing them inside city limits. You're gonna get some public nuisance complaints, and they're gonna go, nope, wasn't mine. And then you run that problem.
I think that'll happen anyways, though.
Chris, you deal with the fireworks.
I think you take that out of it, just leave that alone. The state already has ordinance, rules, and regulations of what you're allowed to transport, how much, placards. I don't think that anybody around here is gonna be buying that much, that we're worried about them transporting or consuming them. I don't think, that's my personal opinion though.
So remove, add, fix, put it on next agenda to approve.
Does it work?
It works, yep.
I think you need a motion for that.
We need to
though.
finish the
I'm not
motion. I
sure.
started the motion.
I'm not really sure what you
So
need.
you got it laid out right to fix and remove, so all I need is a second.
Second that.
So we didn't finish with the first.
Huh?
It was
You see, he
open.
was still going. Greg was still
It
talking.
is still at words.
You were in the middle of doing it.
So we had a motion to add a $500 permit annual, to remove the possession, to take the 5,000 foot off. And we just need to fix it and put it back on the next agenda.
But are we leaving the possession or taking the possession?
We're leaving the possession,
We're leaving it?
right? Are we taking it
I thought we
off?
were taking it off.
Lee, are we taking it off?
We're leaving it.
Leave it.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you leave it. The state already protects us.
So now you gotta finish your motion.
Travel's already on.
That we leave, I make a motion that we add the fee, the permit fee, that we remove the
5,000.
5,000 feet, and that we
Leave
leave
possession.
the possession as is.
Now, does that have to be brought back up at the next agenda, or are we approving it with those amendments? That's a good question.
Well, if it were the adding in the permit fees, why I'm gonna say we need to bring it back, because we've got for just to strike the 5,000 feet would be pretty easy. We can adopt and approve an amended edition, but I've got to drop in the language for the permit fee. And so that's gonna maybe require.
And I think at that point, we have to publish it in the paper after it's approved too, so we want to bring it back for approval.
Okay. All right, so we got our first, we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Judge Kobe.
I'm gonna abstain, even though I do not have my fireworks store anymore. My license is still good throughout the end of the year, so I'm gonna abstain from voting. Good. All right, moving on to V, discuss interaction to approve ordinance number 3280311-2025, an ordinance of the city of West Walkeny, Texas, adopting rules and regulations for establishing the agenda for the city of West Walkeny, Texas, providing for servable a savings clause and setting an effective date.
So this one, I say I have it, I don't have it with me. This one basically just makes it where everybody needs to have anything they want on the agenda presented to Mary by the Tuesday prior to the council meeting. So that we are not scrambling last minute on Friday at 5 o'clock trying to put an agenda together. It gives us more time.
So this one's basically putting it in there that it has to be turned in
Yes.
by the Tuesday.
By
by-
Tuesday prior.
Mayor and the city secretary.
Yes.
Just so, because, I mean, not necessarily this past month, but in previous months, we're sitting down on what we call in the office agenda day, to where Friday takes all day to get everybody in, get approvals, get the package ready, and then getting delivered to you guys. I'm hoping to be able, I can build this agenda throughout the month with the items that are coming in, but to make our final makes and edits that last final week. Now, if there's emergency items, that's different, and I think it states that in there, but to kind of get the general flow going ahead of time.
It's fair.
That lets us have time to, if we need questions and change things.
This is a little
Yeah, so I can send it to Lee and have it.
on there too.
Does that mean you'll get it to us earlier?
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So
That's
go
the
ahead.
goal.
I make a motion that we pass now.
I second that.
All right, I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Greg Sprinkle.
Bruce Burkett. All right, moving on to W. Discussion and or action to approve schedule for workshop for comprehensive plan, including planning and zoning committee, city council members, and city staff.
Keep in mind, we do have a workshop on the 27th of March. We are thinking of scheduling for all of the commissions and boards.
Can you speak on behalf? Will city staff be able to?
So this was kind of written to make sure we have all necessary people involved, so whether it's me, Shannon, JD in Public Works, and whomever is gonna take part in the planning of this, so it's not just a council decision and being able to pull everybody in.
So if we add it to the workshop that we already have coming, she's shaking her head no.
I feel like it's gonna be
Too
lengthy
much.
at that point. You're already gonna have all the boards and commissions and going over those projects and plans and then adding the comprehensive plan. I think that's gonna be enough of a topic itself to take a bite.
And she might have something to suggest.
Just gonna note, also, one of your planning team members would not be available on the 27th. So if y'all would like me in attendance at this event, partially to help y'all with the planning discussions, I will help guide those. Also, this will a lot of the discussions that we will have at this meeting will also link into the zoning discussions for what y'all thankfully adopted tonight. So I would not be able to be there on the 27th, just to keep that in mind.
What I would recommend is we pick 2 or 3 dates. Since our mayor is not here, giving us a chance to get it in front of him and allowing him to try to pick the final out of those 2 or 3. So
How soon are y'all looking to wanna do this? I do believe Jacob Martin kind of wants to be involved as well, obviously they do, but they kind of want some comments sooner rather than later, so they can make sure they're developing what we need. We can move on to adopting this process.
Let's do one this month. And then
So you already have the 27th of this month,
That's the day.
yes.
what's the other one?
The 25th.
25th being a Tuesday.
2 meetings in 1 week, I mean. it's just-
So they have a calendar
Should we
for the
put
trash
that
out.
day, is it?
The Tuesday the 25th. Thursday the 20th. You said come up with several dates.
Chief West Walking Beautiful meets on, I believe, the
Thursday.
3rd,
That would be the
Correct, on the
third.
20th,
That
yeah.
would
the
be the
20th, so that one's out.
So we have the 25th as an option.
I do have the 25th as an option on mine.
Mine too.
I'm good for that.
I'm
Are you good for that?
So
Are you good for that?
I think so.
Okay, and then I'll get with Christy to see if she's good for all these dates that we picked, but
That's a question.
I'll get a better
So
option.
let's do the 25th at what time? 1800, 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock?
Good.
All right, there's option 1. Let's try to throw one more option out there at least in case she's busy or the mayor can't make that one.
We want to do maybe, if we're looking at Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do the 1st or 3rd.
You can't do the first Thursday.
Okay, so the
For
1st
public
or the
hearing.
2nd
When does
So-
EDC meet?
on Monday.
So
The
if we
7th.
did
Okay.
Tuesday the 1st,
Who meets on the first?
First Monday.
So that'd be 7th.
Okay.
Well, except we're moving it to 5:30.
And nobody meets on Tuesday or Wednesday the first week.
So
Well,
is
Wednesday,
everybody-
that's the one we just scheduled the building and standards for.
Is everybody free on Tuesday, April 1st?
Yes.
P and Z, we need to get with P and Z.
Whatever, so I want
The
to.
later the better.
First, yes. First.
Yes.
Same thing, 6 o'clock? So there you have two.
At least the majority of P and Z is good for either of those dates.
6:30.
So let's make a motion to have those two dates submitted back to the city for the city to pick which is the best of the two. And allows it to get to the mayor. Who wants to make that?
I'll make that motion, that we pick one of those 2 days back to the city and let the mayor help us with which date he would prefer.
And you got both dates? Okay. You
I
got
have
it
everybody's
first?
thoughts and plans on the comprehensive plan when we get to it, so we're not staring at each other.
Sure.
I'll second.
You got a first and a second? All in favor?
Ted Covey.
Greg Swindle.
Yes.
Chris
I
Burkett.
got the dates, but I need to do the first and second.
You good? All right, moving on. X, discuss interaction on reinstating the Friends of the Park Board and reinstating the 501c3 account. Greg, that has your name next to it.
It
sir.
does. So after a lot of research and a lot of work, we've determined that the Friends of the Park Board has, their 501c3 designation has fallen out of sync. So I would like to figure out from Lee what it takes to get it reinstated. So I learned tonight from Mary Hill that apparently there was an incorrect box checked and only corporate donations were allowed on the original 501c3 designation. And for us to be able to go out and get private donations and friends to donate to the park so that we can do something with what I believe is the biggest draw we have in this town, which is the park and the lake. For us to be able to do that, we need to be able to give a tax exempt number to donations. And so the West Tawakoni, Keep West Tawakoni Beautiful Group does not have a 501c3 designation. The city itself is not a 501c3 entity. And since the Friends of the Park Group had one, we just need to get it reinstated, and we need to find out how much it's going to cost to get it reinstated so that we can go out and get private donations to do some positive things to the park.
We also need to put the Friends of the Park back together and have members, I believe.
So we need to get the park back together. So Lee, how much does it cost to get the 501c3 reinstated? Based on my research, it was less than $500.
Yeah, I think it's not gonna be very expensive, but I don't, without seeing any of the paperwork, because it may be pretty straightforward, but I don't know what you're looking at, Greg. So let me look at it.
We should be able to get all that from Leon.
Secretary of State, that was $25.
Well, so yeah, apparently.
Yeah, I don't
reinstated.
even think it's gonna be that much. I think it's just kind of violent.
It is, but there's a fee for getting reinstated because there is a fee based on what my research said that it was.
It's $250, is that?
Yeah, there was a fee to get it reinstated because you hadn't filed your 501c3 tax returns for more than 3 years. Then there was a fee or a fine associated with it. And what I would like to do is be able to get that reinstated so that we can do.
Have they filed tax returns? Where are they at on?
They never finished getting their 501c3 designation because they incorrectly checked the box that would only allow them to get corporate designations. So they just dropped it.
So it's not a matter of getting it reinstated, it would actually be
You have to start all over.
Yeah, we have to start all over.
Instead of.
Apparently we need to start, this is not my skill set. This is your skill set. So, I need to know what we need to do to be able to do that, so that we can then get whatever money's needed to be able to do that, so that I can go out and get donations to get the park, improved.
So instead of reinstating it, why don't you just type a new one?
You
We
can't
need to
just,
reinstate the board.
yeah, we have to reinstate the Friends of the Park Board, which we haven't had.
My question is, why would we go back through, if we're starting all over, we don't really need to reinstate, we may just need to create a new entity, because I don't wanna get into I don't wanna step into we have maybe some penalty or something like that if they didn't do something right. It might be more beneficial to go our order and start from scratch with a different group.
I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm trying to figure out how I get 501c3 designation for donations.
So my question though is, why keep us to Walkeny Beautiful? I thought they were already.
They are not. They are not. I've attended their meeting last week, and it was a fee that they didn't have the money to pay for, and not sure that it gave them, that there was benefit for them to do it. So, I would like to see what it takes for us to get it done and then do it.
I mean, the filing fees on it are pretty cheap, Greg, so I think that's something we can definitely do, but maybe what the city ought to do at this point is we either need to, we don't want to necessarily reinstate the 501c3 account because it doesn't exist, so it's not really something we can reinstate.
No, I get that.
Create it altogether.
I need to know from you what the steps are that I need to take. So with council's approval to get that done.
So do we need to create a new group or committee, board, entity of some sort to do that?
Yeah, because it got those all.
Well, so that's kind of what I'm wondering about too is, what is Keep West Walkeny's Beautiful? What's their sphere? What do they totally do? Because what we might do is take them, use Keep West Walkeny Beautiful and create them as a 501c3.
No, sorry, I don't want to become a 501c3.
So Lee, they don't want to have to, they don't want the responsibility of the filing of the tax. So I think we need to do it separately, but I need to know.
That helps.
But wouldn't that be the city's responsibility? Or is that gonna be whoever's on the board's responsibility? If we do this board, we're gonna have to go through we're gonna have to make that, that board be responsible for that.
Yeah, which is something they meant, yeah.
It sounds to me like we should table it and maybe Lee and.
What we ought to do is, let's do it this way, let's, if y'all would like to, let me say it that way. You vote on the creation of, or the reinstatement of an organization or board that can handle, 501c3 donations or proceeds of donations specifically for the park.
I'm good
And then
with
that
that.
gives me an area to operate in so that I can figure out what I think is gonna be the best course of action for us, and then we can pull it back next month and talk about what we're exactly gonna do. But it gives me something to have marching orders to start with.
No,
Does
we
that
have
make
the
sense?
park event, the park event.
Have the park event committee, which is not dissolved, it's just on hold.
We just gotta make that motion.
And it's
See,
not
like-
members, which is why it's on hold.
Right.
Yes, but do we want to maintain it as still a event?
I make a motion
And all
that
that with what she brings up.
I make a motion that we create a entity that will allow for 501c3 designated donations within the city. And if using an existing board is okay or exists, or creating a new one is required, that we vote on that. That we add that. That work?
That works.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Judge Goodwin.
Greg Sprinkle.
Yes.
Chris Burkett.
I'm feeling good with that.
It's hard to get money done out here.
All right, number Y, discussion or action on committee assistance program CAP grant of $20,000. James, it has your name on it.
So I had a meeting with the Sabine River Authority people yesterday. So they have money that they give out, and they said, if you want to apply for this, we'll help you. We'll help you fill this out. It's actually on their website. What we have to do is to log in, set up a login and password. And it's a simple application form. You just, file it, send it in, and I think they're willing to give us the money. If you can, they do give it to people, and they said it has to be used. It cannot be used for a study. It's got to be used for a project. And I told them, we have lift stations to repair and things like that. They said that's perfect. That's the kind of things that they want. It's for water or wastewater, nothing else. So it's pretty easy to get. I think we just need to, log.
So who logs in and fills out the paperwork and?
I would say somebody from the city, Mary or somebody. It's not difficult.
I'll do it.
If you just Google it,
JD's offering to take it on.
JD,
Cool.
it's pretty easy to do it.
He's signing his name next to it.
And if there are questions, they'll help you.
And unbeknownst to me, I had the parallel conversation with PSRA, only mine was by phone. And their board meets quarterly, I think. He said if we have that application in by the next meeting, he was pretty confident that we'll be able to get that.
Did you say when the next meeting was?
June. Next week is in June.
So can we put a completion date on having the application in? What's a reasonable amount of time for you?
It'll take an hour.
3-4 weeks? I'm not saying I want it done tomorrow. Just what's a reasonable amount of time to ask you to have that done by next council meeting?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's because that'll be April, which would give them 60 days to review and give it to us. So on the very last thing down here is future agenda.
Yeah, so, it's marked as discussion and or action. So need to make a motion, it sounds like, to have JD, look into filling that out and having an update for us before the next council meeting.
I'll make a motion, JD gets that filled out for us by next council meeting in April.
Who seconded her too?
James was ready.
I got a first. On the first place, let him do it.
All right.
I got a first and a second, all in favor?
I didn't do it.
Judge Kobe.
Randy, did you?
Greg Sprinkle.
Chris Burkett. All right, we already did number Z, so moving down to new business number 9, future agenda items. Where a council member can go ahead and put some information out there if they have items they want to put on the next council meeting. Again, y'all can do that now, or you have all the way up to
Tuesday
the
prior
Tuesday
to-
prior to the meeting. So if you got something on your
I had one.
list that you want to get to them.
Yeah, I had one, actually, one was, why not increase the occupancy tax? But I had sent that in twice.
It already is.
Huh?
I believe it already is. Doing some final research on it, I do think
We're
we're at
the
7%.
maximum.
We are at what percent?
7, the max.
We are at 7?
I believe we are.
So it is max.
Any other agenda items that you'd like to go ahead and have added now?
We'll do it before, the
Okay.
week before. the next.
Number 10 would be citizens input, non-agenda related items.
So I was cut short a little bit, not short, but I didn't have enough time to finish. So I will state that, the 5-year plan, my mistake, she was
No,
given
this
the
is-
wrong one.
Wait, if this is still on the agenda,
Yeah, this is non-related agenda items.
Really, because I was supposed to be on the agenda and I wasn't added to it. And then I don't have enough time to give, okay, that's fine. I'll make sure it's online. Thank y'all. Have a wonderful night.
Any other non-related agenda items that you'd like? All right.
I have a question. We talked to you about, you are fixing roads and everything. We'd asked them if there's any chance that we could pick up the materials. We fix our roads ourselves anyway, but we purchased the material ourselves. And if y'all have a stockpile of it, we were wanting to know if we could come pick it up and do our own potholes. And you said you would check into it. I don't know if you ever did or not, so. If there's a place where we could just get the material from y'all to do it, instead of buying it extra, so.
So we actually can't talk about it here, but get with him and. Anything else?
I don't
All
have
right.
any other forms.
Huh?
I don't have any other forms.
Number 11.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion? All in favor of going home?
But you don't
All in favor?
Greg.
Chris Sprinkle. Chris Burkett.
That was